Hello, I'm Pam Hoffman, Everyday Spacer.
I'm Jeff Miller, 2049 Outfitters.
At Everyday Spacer, we show regular folks how to personally and directly participate in space exploration, science, and astronomy. We're here on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific time, 12 midnight Eastern time, and 12 noon on Saturday in Hong Kong. We're broadcasting live from Thousand Oaks, California.
Tonight's guest is Bob Stoffregen. All right, folks. We'll be back in 8.3 seconds. Are you guys ready to learn how to take better pictures, especially of the night sky? If you are, stick around.
Bob Stoffregen has been a hobbyist photographer for many years who enjoys the world and universe around him through photography. Bob enjoys digging into the details and the technical side of an image and enjoys sharing the results with others.
Especially challenging are deep space and wide field nighttime images where getting the details right can make or break a good photo. He loves to share the night sky with others.
Bob participates through 1 skywatches hosted by his local astronomy club and 2 at a local park.
All right.
Bob, how did you get into astrophotography?
Let's take our comment first. Dawn has arrived. Thanks for being here with us, Dawn. Hey, folks, welcome, Bob.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Maybe just a little nervous, but I'll slide through this. So
well, I'll help you. Dawn's actually very close to you. She lives in Ohio, Northern Ohio.
Oh, okay, great. I have a story about Ohio in a little bit.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And Janie Becker's here, excited to learn more about great photographer perspectives.
Great. Yay. Fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks for being here with us, Janie.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Like I said, this is new to me. So how did I get started in photography? Actually, my first experience with photography was while scuba diving in South Florida with an underwater camera that I bought from JCPenney, believe it or not.
Got it.
And so I knew absolutely nothing about it. I bought the camera, I bought the underwater light meter, and I went underwater and just started snapping photos.
Those are neat. They're all like enclosed in a box, right?
Well, no, it's actually a waterproof camera. It's a Nikon Nikonos, if anybody knows cameras. And it's all O-ring sealed, and there's no box to it. So as expected, my results were less than desirable. It was very frustrating because back then, of course, it was all film. And when I say back then, I'm talking about in the 70s. So it was all film. I shot on Kodak Kodachrome. And of course, it was 36 exposures. So you got your best exposure that you thought you had, and then you waited for it to be processed, and then you looked at the results. And it was a long, drawn out process, very slow. So after that, I decided I was going to kind of get serious about it. So I took some photo classes, actually at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, which it's a design school, and part of what they teach is photography. So in the school is where I really learned about the technical side of photography and the how light affects the image, how to read light, and then also what all the camera settings were. So back then, of course, everything was manual cameras. And so the instructors actually took the batteries out of our cameras. They had a built-in light meter. The shutters worked, but they took the batteries out, and they made us use a handheld light meter to meter everything manually. So that was a huge learning experience. And I think that's really what gave me the basics to be able to be creative and try different things with what I do today. So one of the assignments we actually had was to build a pinhole camera out of a Quaker oatmeal box.
Nice.
and it actually worked. And so I loaded the piece of photo paper up in my camera, took it outside, set it down on the dock, and there was a hose laying on the dock, and a guy came by about halfway through the exposure, grabbed the hose and walked off with it. And I thought, well, this is ruined. This image is ruined. I took it back inside and the image was great. And actually the hose was a ghost because it was there for half the exposure and it was not there for the rest of it. So part of the hose showed up, part of the dock showed up, and it was just a great learning experience. So we also learned basic darkroom, film developing techniques, and print enlargement techniques, those type of things.
Yeah, real quick, let's say hi to Daniel and Lance. Thanks for being here with us, Lance. Daniel says, "Yay, a fellow scuba diver."
Yay!
Cliff came and he says, "Good evening. Just gonna love this subject." He's finally getting some good weather. Talk about weather. Cliff had rain for like 2 years straight, and we're like, "Quit buying stuff, man." He keeps buying cameras and equipment. Anyway, so
Good.
yeah, welcome, folks. We're glad you're here.
Good. Yeah, welcome. Thank you. So I got out of photography for a while until actually 2015. And then I decided to, actually my folks passed away and I decided to do something for myself. And I went out and I bought a camera. Well, of course, now it's all digital. So I had to learn new jargon, new processes, things like that, file management, megabytes, new software programs, things like that. But what I expected was the light was still the light. F-stops were still F-stops, shutter speeds were still shutter speeds. And so I just kind of fell right back into it.
Nice. Yeah, that's very confusing to me, all that stuff. So
it can be confusing, and you have to kind of think of it as having things, cutting things in half and doubling is basically what it is.
Okay.
And so, but with the digital, again, I could experiment and do different things with it because for one thing, if the photo didn't turn out, it was cheap just to delete it. I didn't have to wait for it to be processed. And so it gave me more of a creative Jones, so to speak, to do different things. And so one of the things that I did was I went back to my school days and I thought, well, I'm going to make a pinhole camera and I'm going to make a modern version of it. And so
there you go.
there you go. So the image,
hanger. It's a huge hanger.
Do they see the image on the screen?
Oh, you want me to show it now? I will be happy to share. Go ahead. Yeah, there it is.
So you're probably wondering, what's this got to do with astrophotography? Well, it doesn't really. But what I wanted to show you was this was taken Tuesday night of some flowers of my wife's in the backyard, actually with my new pinhole camera. And what I did was I took the camera body, took the body cap, drilled a hole in it, and put a piece of tinfoil over it, poked a hole in it. And this is now my new pinhole camera.
Way cool.
So
it works just fine, I'm sure.
It does work fine. And it's a little fuzzy, of course, as expected. But actually, going back to the hose on the dock story, this was a 10-second exposure. I walked through this image and you don't even see me.
No.
So, so what I'm leading up to is you can learn new things by looking very small and looking close to home and just trying new things. And again, with cameras, the new cameras nowadays, if you don't like what you see, you just delete it. So let me move on here to another one.
Oh, yep.
Oh, so this one is actually a panorama taken with the pinhole camera.
That's beautiful.
And it's out at the lake, of course, during winter. And this is probably 6 images just stitched together in Photoshop. And actually they stitched together beautifully because part of the problem with stitching images in Photoshop is the lens distortion. Well, guess what? There's no lens here. There's no distortion. So they stitch together really easy. So
yes, welcome, Steve. He's added a comment. Hi, Pam and Jeff. Looking forward to learn more about astrophotography. Great.
Hi, Steve.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, Steve
this
is another shutter bug.
Whoops, wait a minute. Let's get. Yeah, you're sharing another picture. Let me go ahead and share that.
Yeah. So this is just the basic principle of a pinhole camera.
Yeah.
It's basically a box with a hole in the front of it. And what it demonstrates is that light travels in a straight line. So again, it was a fun learning experience. Would I do it every day? Probably not. But it was, I guess it was to prove myself, well, yeah, I can still do this. So.
Yes, pinhole cameras are amazing. I've seen some, and he just left it open like at a same point in time every single day for a whole year. And it looks like this beautiful analemic crown. It's amazing.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let me move into a different folder. So I'm just going to close this one out.
All righty.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready, and I'll share screen.
Okay. Hang
with
on.
the audience.
Yep.
Daniel comes in with pinhole camera images are like artworks made as directly as possible out of reality.
There you go.
I like that.
So go ahead and you can share this one then.
All righty. Oh,
this is actually, and just along the lines of moving through an image and not being seen. I wanted to do a tail light thing one night, and so I went up on the interstate and sat at the intersection of the interstate and an on-ramp and set my camera up and just recorded the traffic that went by.
That's really interesting. I've seen a lot of these, and I think this is one of the most interesting ones I've ever seen.
Especially with the disembodied red line above.
Well, and so the story behind this was I wanted to capture the taillights from the merge sign all the way down around the corner to where the traffic disappears around the bottom of this mountain. And so a group of cars went by and I timed it. It was 40 seconds. Well, I knew I needed a 40-second exposure. So I'm waiting for another group of cars coming. I see them coming. As soon as they reach me, I open the shutter. I've got a remote release. I open the shutter and count off 40 seconds. Well, in the group of cars was a semi truck, and the top of his trailer was all lit up.
Okay. Yep, I had a feeling it was going to be a semi.
Yeah, so that's where the lights come from at the top. And then, of course, there on the right-hand side, there's some traffic merging. So, but the question I posed to myself is, where are the cars? The cars don't even show up. So, and it's because of the long exposure. Movement just doesn't show up. Now the lights do because they're bright.
Yeah.
But you know, I could have walked across the front of this thing, and started to pick up some litter, you know, and I wouldn't have been in the shot. So.
Yeah, Dawn said, "Wow, yeah, wow." Then Daniel goes, "I see a burned out license plate light."
There you go.
Janie's got a comment too. Cool tail lights with the moon overhead. Yeah, I thought
Thank you. Yeah, and so this being a 40-second exposure, the moon is just a little bit shaky. You can see it's a little fuzzy.
It's a little yeah.
That's because of the long exposure. Of course, the Earth is rotating, and so and I'll get into that when we get into the astro photos. So let me.
Yeah, Cliff, great shot.
Thank you. Let me move into another one here that's a little experimenting, and then we'll do the astronomy one. So
okay,
let me back out of this.
Right on. Okay.
Okay, and let me jump into this one.
Yeah, I've never really taken a picture of lights like that. That's a good way to play with and learn from. Interesting.
Yeah, and everything's a learning experience. You know, of course you're going to have failures, but that's how you learn. This one's just the total opposite. I shot this one from a moving car and the stationary lights. And this is at a street in town called Candy Cane Lane. The whole the whole street decorates for Christmas.
Mhm.
Yep.
And
we have-
so I
we have
sat
some
in the back of the car. My wife was driving, and you could see she must be going 100 miles an hour here, but she's actually just creeping along. It's a long exposure. I used a flashlight with a blue filter just to do a little light painting
Oh, inside the car. Got it.
inside the car. Okay. But what I wanted to point out was down here on the right hand side, do you see the lights going by and they've turned into dots?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Well, my theory is what's happening is when they go past the car, the motion is being stopped. And in the United States, electrical current is generally 120 volt, and you'll see a 60 Hz.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's happening is they're cycling on and off at 60 times a second.
Yeah. Daniel said LED lights. I think that's what I thought it was.
Yep. So they're actually blinking on and off very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Faster
so-
than the eye could pick up, but the camera clearly did.
Well,
and sometimes you can pick those up like out of on your peripheral vision. You can kind of
Yes.
see something flickering. You're thinking, I've had a long day. Something's not going on right, So so I thought that was pretty cool. So I just wanted to share that with you. And
Yeah.
again,
Daniel had a question. Was that also a pinhole shot? And Daniel, did
No.
you mean?
no,
neither
these are not pinhole shots. No.
Okay, so neither this one nor the
The previous one.
long exposure.
No.
Yeah.
and Janie says, "Wow, imagine what Las Vegas lights would look like."
Yeah,
Yep.
there you go. Yeah. So Janie, grab your camera, head to Las Vegas, and shoot some lights. So okay. So thank you for letting me share that. So
Sure.
let me
Daniel has a
jump-
comment too. Move your iPass and you can see the flicker sometimes too. Yes,
Yep, exactly.
with the LED lights.
And
Yep.
and just so you know, this is kind of bush league, but if you've got a single engine aircraft, you can time the engine at night by pointing it at a fluorescent light or an LED light.
Ah,
Because
I-
those 60 hertz.
I believe that I used to fly model planes,
Mhm.
and we had a handheld tachometer to tell how fast the engine was revving to. But you had to use it outside, because if you used it inside,
The-
the lights flickering would throw the tachometer off.
Right. Yep.
So the same principle. So
Mhm.
right.
it's really cool, the things that are going on around you that you don't really realize. And so something like this just kind of brings it to light for you.
Yeah, this is such an interesting image because you definitely can see that you're like in a car with the blue.
hmm
I really like that. Thank you for sharing.
And one of the things we learned in school was the about composition and how to use colors in your images, and complementary colors. And blue and orange is actually a complementary color, so they just kind of pop. And then of course there at the top you can see they even string lights over the street from one side of the street to the other, so you can see them going past the sunroof
Yes.
there. You see that?
Right. Yes.
So-
Cliff, I don't know what you mean. Oh, failures, thousands.
Oh, probably all the shots that he's taken. I think.
Oh,
Yeah, well, here you go. Just hit delete,
Mhm.
yeah.
So-
Now,
Okay. Let me move into the interesting stuff.
it's all interesting.
So go ahead, and I'm gonna cut to another folder.
Mhm.
When you're ready, I'll share the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So go ahead, Pam.
There you go.
I started, of course, I was taking everyday photos, but I was more and more interested in moving towards evening and what was happening after dark.
Cool.
And so this is out at the local lake with the moon rising up there, and with some cattails.
Mhm.
And so the more I shot at night, and the later I shot, I would see more and more stars begin to show up in my camera than my eye was seeing.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's because just the sensitivity of the camera is so much more than my eye was.
I think Daniel's referring to the previous picture, right, Daniel? I thought it was a very nice composition as well.
This is. I like this one.
This
too.
one's very good too. Yeah.
That's actually the moon back there. And then of course you can see what's in everybody's skies are the planes right here going through the back of the tree. And I used to think those were so cool, but now I just absolutely despise them, even though I can take them out, but it is what it is. So as I was shooting though, my long exposures, I started to see these streaks, and that's the star trails because of my long exposure. So I was learning as I was going. All right. So again, here's another one, more stars. I had the moon up in the upper left-hand corner. This is Venus here.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is like really, really late. But yet there's still so much light in the sky yet.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really see it, but of course the camera picked it up.
Yep.
And I'll see more and more of this as I move through this.
Yeah.
So Daniel's got a question. Well, he said a comment. Don't put the horizon in the middle.
Let me go back. Is he referring to this one?
I think maybe, yeah. It's not really in the middle.
No, it's. I try to keep it at the rule of thirds. So it's 1/3 up, or you've either got the sky or you've got the land, but you don't put. He's correct. You don't put the horizon in the middle. And
just so people know, it's sort of an artistic thing called the rule of thirds, and you can even make like a grid of 9 to get the points at which they cross are sort of the sweet spots for faces. Stuff
and
like that.
You can't always do that, but you try to anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get. This was out at the lake. A little bit of light painting with a flashlight.
Right.
More stars, and so I was just enjoying this. I could introduce some more light painting and just try to be creative with it.
Nice clouds on the horizon too.
This is early in the morning. Of course, the moon almost setting. This is up at the top of a mountain ridge with the fog down in the valley, of course. So
neat.
This is in a friend of mine in his field, and this is the comet Neowise.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was a little hazy that night, and that's why the stars aren't exactly too sharp. But the cool thing I caught was down here in the bottom, you can see these little flicks of light, and those are actually lightning bugs.
Oh, you got lightning bugs. Yeah, I see them.
So again, I've got a fairly long exposure, and so they're, not only are they flying, but as they're flying, of course, they're lit, and then that records on the sensor. So this is a favorite of mine too.
We don't really have fireflies here. I miss them.
Yeah, we have years here that they're just amazing, a ton of them, and then some years they're just not around very much.
Steve says, how long was that exposure? Is that the one with the fireflies?
I'm guessing that was probably about 6 seconds. Maybe 6 seconds. No more than 10, I would think. And of course, all of my everything I do, I try to put on a tripod. Because obviously these long exposures you can't handhold. And I also use a remote release because I don't want to touch the camera, which introduces camera shake.
Oh, Steve says ISO rating.
I would say maybe 1,000. I think this was shot with a 24 millimeter lens, maybe. I'd have to look at the XF file.
Yeah, that whole ISO thing, that's very confusing to me. I don't even
Yeah,
know what
actually,
it stands for.
yeah, ISO is how sensitive they make the sensor. The camera sensors have a base sensitivity to them, and when you increase the ISO, you're basically turning up the volume to the sensor, so it's recording. It can record more information. Sometimes when you do that, you're also recording more noise. It interjects more noise into the image.
Ah,
Not
so
always, not always, but sometimes.
Daniel asked, was the comet a naked eye object? I think it was neowise,
It
right?
was.
It was.
Yeah, not to this extent, because you can see up here this jet that came up out of the top of it a little bit. And again, this night you can see how fuzzy the stars were. It was the seeing wasn't very good that night, and so but it was a naked eye event. But
Got it.
it always seemed to be low on the horizon, so you had to get to a spot that you had a clear view of the horizon. This is looking, I think, to the northwest, and actually um, this isn't the sunset or anything. This is actually light pollution
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
From a nearby town, State College.
So Steve came back with yeah, that is a wide angle photo.
Correct.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah,
like those, right?
yeah. I shoot most of my astro stuff wide angle for several reasons. So
Alrighty. And
so
Daniel said ISO is International Standards Organization.
correct. And in film, it used to be ASA.
Yep.
An ASA setting was the speed of the film.
Okay.
But when they went to digital, it went to this ISO thing, and he's correct. So I shot this photo here, and at the time I was in a camera club, and I showed this to a friend of mine in the club, and he said, "Well, he says if you like to shoot stars, you need to go to Cherry Springs."
Ah,
And Cherry Springs is an international dark sky park. It's actually the second international designated dark sky park,
cool.
and it's an hour and a half from my house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So let me get out of this one, Pam, and I will jump into Cherry Springs.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, there we go.
Ah, look at that.
So I've seen this on your shows before. You've had guests that explain these light pollution maps. And so it kind of looks like a weather radar thing, but actually what it is the different colors represent the different intensity of light pollution. So basically, this was from an app I have called Astropheric, and I'm going to get into apps a little later because they're very important. But this is basically the state of Pennsylvania. Lake Erie's here, Pittsburgh's down here,
Hmm.
New York City is here. I'm right here in Williamsport, and this is where Cherry Springs is.
Mm.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so one of the ways that they measure light pollution is with the Boral scale,
Right.
Mhm.
and it's a scale from 1 to 9. With the lower the number, the better, the darker that we know, and of course, the higher the number, the absolute worse it could be. So Cherry Springs is about a 2 to a 3.
Mm.
It's not as dark as everybody might think it is. There's a lot of other places that are much darker. My
Mm,
house is a 3 to a 4, and I can actually shoot and get some decent photos around my house.
nice.
But this is again the different colors. You kind of use the chart down here to see, and I'll talk about this a little more later too. But this is a fantastic planning tool because if you're going on vacation or planning a trip somewhere, you pull one of these up and you can see how much light pollution is in the area that you're planning to visit. And so you're thinking, well, I'm going to get some, I got a chance to get some great pictures or not so great pictures. So, or in New York, not any pictures at all. So I use this light pollution map quite a bit. But I spend a lot of time at Cherry Springs, so I'm pretty much locked in. So
Do you know about the clear sky chart?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And I actually, I was that fellow's name Chris. The clear sky chart. You're talking about the weather.
Oh, yeah, it's like astronomer's weather.
Yeah. So I think that guy's name is Chris. I'm going to say Chris Attillo. And I subscribed to that for a while. I actually found Astroferic to be a little more in depth.
Okay.
But that clear sky chart, actually, our club website has a link to the clear sky
cool.
chart. Yeah. So
we've gotten a bunch of comments. Why don't I run through some?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Steve says, I read somewhere that Bortle scale was somewhat subjective. Can you explain why, if you agree?
I'm not 100% sure. I know that's not the only way they measure light pollution. Another way they measure it, I believe, is called an SQM measurement. It's a sky quality meter, and it's actually a number like in the high teens and low 20s. I don't know why it would be subjective. And if you look at different light pollution maps, you do see different color zones. So they do tend to fluctuate.
Yeah, I've seen the Bortle scale chart, and they do have like the number and a color and a description.
Right. But if you look at a different one, they might be a little different, the area. It might show a different color.
Yeah, one of my thoughts has always been, why don't they just use magnitudes? What's the magnitude of the dimmest star you can actually see? And just because then it would be, objective and it'd be the same everywhere.
Right.
So we got more comments. Let me go ahead and Daniel says ASA, American Standards Association, now ANSI, American National Standards Institute, DIN, Deutsche Institut für Normung, German Institute for Standardization. That's one of the things we love about our audience. They will find stuff for us while we're talking.
Perfect. Yep.
Cliff says, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that's what we want is participation, because
absolutely.
I don't want anybody dozing off on me, because I'm afraid of that. So
no, this is awesome. So Cliff goes, astrophotography is always in battle with noise and hot pixels.
Correct. Because mainly because of the long exposure times involved. So there's ways around that. So
right. Lance says, of course it would be subjective. It was created with the intent of a guide to sky brightness / darkness, and he's referring to the Bortle scale.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things I know with especially like with the clear sky chart is it'll give you the transparency and things like the seeing in the sky. I kind of know how to get around that, but I don't know how to deal with transparency. So if you or anybody knows, and Lance came back with something else, if you need specific data, use SQL meter.
SQL. I'm sorry, I said SQM. It's SQL. That's right.
Because SQL makes me think of it's a program, right?
It's a database. Yeah, it's a database.
Okay.
And a couple of the guys in the club have their own SQL meter, and they have measured. They have measured, like at their house. They've measured, but it's kind of it's an expensive toy, and it's a one-time thing. Once you measure the sky quality at Cherry Springs, it usually doesn't change.
Right.
It can change over the years because the light pollution gets worse and worse. But it just, from one week to the next, you pretty much, my opinion is you're going to get the same sky quality reading. So,
well, and to maintain their certificate, they actually have to do some things that will maintain their dark sky, right?
They do, and Cherry Springs has those. They have, of course, it's all red lights. The restroom is red lights, and let me tell you, if you've never been into a red restroom at night, it's quite an experience. So
You start wondering if you're in Amsterdam, right?
yeah, exactly. You're in the red light district, right? And then they're even on a motion detector.
Oh, nice.
So when you
Oh,
walk,
very good.
yeah, when you walk into the restroom, they go off. They come on, obviously, and then they go off. So,
Oh, I
but
like that already.
yeah, all of their paths, they have downlighting. It's red light. At the kiosk, they have this red cellophane they have available. You can put over your cell phones.
Nice.
So they do a lot to protect everybody's vision.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So let me get out of this one, Pam.
All righty.
And where are we going from here? Okay, so Cherry Springs. So I did go to Cherry Springs, and it wasn't with the guy from the club because he couldn't make it when we were. Oh, it was when we were going. It was cloudy, and so he couldn't go the following weekend. So I went up by myself. And let me just pull this image up, and then I'll talk about it.
All righty.
Okay.
And I've got a national park real close to me, and I'm amazed that just 20 minutes drive, I can be in a pretty dark space this close to Los Angeles. That's the amazing part to me.
So go ahead and pull that one up.
Oh, beautiful.
So my first trip to Cherry Springs used to be an airport.
Oh.
And it's divided into two sections. There's a public viewing side, which you can go in, you go in on the runway side of the airport. It's a big field. You just go, take your lawn chair, your blanket, hang out, do whatever you want. So I went up there. I wanted to make sure I got up there before dark, and I got out in the field with my lawn chair, and I had all my stuff with me. And so I sat there, and it got dark, and it got darker, and it got darker, and it got darker. And so I started to see the Milky Way in the sky, and it looked like a cloud that just didn't move. Okay. And so
this is like summertime because it's kind of north and south.
Yep, it's in August. And actually, this happened to be the peak weekend of the Perseids meteor showers.
Oh, nice.
Oh, so you caught one.
So I caught one.
Yeah,
so I'm sitting there, and I'm using 30-second exposures, and I'm sitting in my chair, and I'm just clicking away, and I'm kind of in a trance, just clicking, kind of one after another, and all of a sudden, a huge fireball flies over the top of my head.
Oh, wow.
And so after a while, you kind of lose track. Well, is the shutter open or is it not open? I can't remember, with a 30-second exposure. And all of a sudden the camera goes click. And I look at the back of the screen, and this is what I see. And so this photo right here is kind of really what got me hooked on doing more photos of the night sky. And
that is gorgeous, Bob.
And actually, I'll zoom in here a little bit. You can see some color in this tail, in this meteor.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. So the more I shot these, the more I learned, of course, and I learned about maximum exposure length. I learned about a thing called the 500 rule, which is really kind of a lie anyway.
You said 500? 500?
The 500 rule. And let me zoom in up here. So this is a 30-second exposure. And do you see how the stars are like little streaks?
Yeah.
They're not round. So these are trailing. So for the lens I used, the 30-second exposure was too long.
Yeah.
And it started to record the stars moving across the sensor. So the 500 rule states the longest exposure time that you can use for your lens combination is 500 divided by the focal length of your lens. So if you're using a 25 millimeter lens, your maximum exposure time is 20 seconds. Okay. I shot at 30. So this is why it trailed. the other problem with that is, and the reason I say it's kind of a fib, is because if you're using a crop sensor camera, you have to factor in the crop factor of the camera. On Nikons, it's 1.5. So you take 500 times 1.5, and then you get 330 something, and then you divide your lens into that. So your shutter speed has gone down even more now. So full frame cameras, of course, can use the full 500. Canon cameras I think, have a crop factor of 1.6. So astrophotography isn't hard. There's just some rules that you need to keep in your mind.
And a class. I totally need a class. You've totally went over my head
Yeah,
there.
I teach a couple little classes to like local clubs and stuff, and we go out to Cherry Springs. And when you have 20 people out there, everybody's set up, and I give everybody little red glow sticks, the little Sialoon glow sticks that you snap and break, and they glow red. And we put them on their tripods so nobody's tripping over everybody else's equipment. And it kind of, it looks like the Martians have landed because they got all these red lights,
So I think people can find out about your class at the website here, right?
Yeah. So I do have a page. I think it's at the top. One of the headers says mentoring, and you can go in there and get some information.
I'm going to go ahead and add this to the comments as well. And Steve has a question as well. Hold on, let me paste this in.
Yep.
And then Steve says, please explain.
Oh, you have to remove the banner.
Crop factor. What?
You have to remove the banner first.
No, it'll go over. Won't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please explain crop factor. I think I figured out eventually, but I had that question too. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, so generally in 35 millimeter DSLRs, okay, there's two classes basically in this type of camera. Now there's medium format cameras that have a different size sensor, etc. But there's full frame cameras and there's crop sensor cameras. And it's just the differences in the sensor size. And so the full frame cameras are, of course, more money. They have a larger sensor. And so they are the size of a 35 millimeter slide or a 35 millimeter negative. Okay. The crop sensor has a smaller sensor. And so what it does is it kind of acts like almost like a telephoto lens. It's cropping in. And I should have put up a diagram. I didn't know I was going to be asked this, but it has a smaller sensor, so it's effectively cropping in. And so by cropping in, it's getting tighter. You're seeing a tighter field of view, and then if you're photographing stars, those stars are moving across that tighter field of view faster than they are the full frame camera.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yep. So when you talk about this, it's like an array on a CCD chip.
Correct.
Right? It's a CCD.
Correct. Let me see if I can. I don't know if this will show up or not. This is
charge couple display.
Yeah.
Charge couple display.
This is this is a
gives you the pixels
full frame.
Oh, what's you gonna show us?
I don't know if you can see that in there.
So yeah, that's shiny.
That's the sensor back there. This is a full frame camera, and this is my crop camera.
See, they both look the same to me. They just look like cameras.
Well, on the outside, they're exactly the same.
Yeah.
They have the same body, and that's what I like about them, because once I've learned the buttons on one, I don't want to be learning the buttons on a different one in a different place. So I try to. This is the crop, and I don't know if you can see. It's just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
The sensor back in there.
Yeah, the sensor is smaller than.
Yes. Yeah.
Not much though. So
No, it's not much. You're right. It's not much at all.
okay.
But
And Daniel came with he found a charge coupled device.
what's that? I'm sorry.
Daniel found CCD as charge coupled device.
Correct.
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel.
So that's how the 500 rule affects our exposure time. And so when we're shooting the night sky, things are so dim, we need to get as much exposure as we can.
Right.
And so in photography, there's a thing called the exposure triangle, and it's a triangle of three things that determine a good a correct exposure. It's aperture, shutter speed, and ISO or ISO. And so changing one, if you change one, you have to change one of the others, one or two of the others. Okay. So in photography, in astrophotography, we want to try to shoot our lens wide open if we can, at the largest aperture to
Makes
get in
sense.
as much light as we can. Of course, we're limited now to our exposure time because of star trailing. All right. And so the only third thing that we can adjust is ISO. So we crank the ISO up. And that's where the earlier comment was made about higher ISO means hot pixels and more noise, which is true. One of the ways around it is to put your camera on a star tracker.
Yes.
And the star tracker, of course, once you get it aligned, polar aligned, it will track the stars, and because it rotates at the same speed that the Earth does. So
yeah, so it will work for your artistic shots that you've shown so far because you want the background. You have background as well as stars, whereas because if you're tracking the stars, the background's going to move.
Correct. So you're shooting two exposures. You're shooting a tracked sky, and then you're also shooting then a non-tracked foreground, and you're bringing the two together.
Okay.
In Photoshop or some other software program. That's the way you have to do it that way. And it's actually, there's masking and things in Photoshop that will automatically mask out the trees and everything.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Yeah. It's not as difficult as it sounds, but I think I've only got, of all my images here, I think I've only got one track shot. Most of these are just straight right out of the camera, non-tracked. So
there's a stacking thing too now where you can take a really short exposure and then just add them up. Yep. I guess I don't really know.
You can, and that's very useful in the deep sky photography where the targets are really, really dim. So you're wanting to get really long exposure times, and I'll go through some of those as we move along here.
Yeah, Stephen has shown us some stacked images that were just fantastic.
Yeah, they are.
Was it the Rosetta Nebula?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is looking down the runway at Cherry Springs, and it's just what I call a wide field shot. Jupiter here, the Pleiades here.
Oh, beautiful.
So this was taken in February, and I wanted it to look like it was cold. Dark and cold, and so I boosted the blues and purples up a little bit in it
you did it. It looks dark and cold.
Yeah, dark and cold, and it was dark and cold.
Oh, Cliff says Deep Sky Stacker for free.
Right, and I do use it.
Okay. So it sounds like it's anywhere in the world because, of course, Cliff is in Australia and you're in the United States.
Yeah, I do use Deep Sky Stacker. Yep. This is taken near the house at that lake that I took the panorama with the pinhole and with a little light painting. So again, just trying to follow some compositional rules, keeping the horizon in the lower third, and then maybe some leading lines going in from the boats, Um,
So have you heard of Steve says I was using nebulosity to stack, but it won't run on the latest Mac OS.
yeah.
Mac operating system. I've switched to Cyril.
Right.
Steve Learning.
There are many programs. There are many programs that are fantastic programs other than Photoshop, other than the Adobe products.
Right. Yeah.
That
some
do a
are
fantastic job.
specifically for astrophotography, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've started using PixInsight. PixInsight has an extremely steep learning curve to it.
Oh.
But it's geared specifically towards astrophotography, and it does an amazing job. To me, Photoshop is geared more towards graphic artists and the layouts and those type of things. And of course, you can do photo processing in it, but PixInsight seems to be geared specifically towards astrophotography.
Nice.
So yeah, a little bit of light painting here. And again, this is I think this was like 3 images. So I took one for the sky, and I took maybe 3 or 4 for the foreground, and light painting different sections.
Yeah, I like the way the boat points to where the Milky Way is hitting the horizon.
Yeah, thank you. That was my intent, was to just those are leading lines. They kind of lead your eye in. The Milky Way's going one way.
Yeah.
The boats are coming in from a different direction. It kind of keeps you in the center of the photo. Was I thinking of that at the time? Probably not, but
Yeah, Steve was saying that PixInsight has not just the learning curve, but it's a little pricey too. $300.
It's close to $300. Yeah. But
I can understand that.
You said that you weren't thinking about this, but then what makes a good photo. So it was in your processing for when you took the shot, I think.
Composition, yeah.
It was, and I do try to look at it. I think if I'd had to back up, I'd have been in the water. And this is actually where the cattail shot was taken. The cattails are right behind the boat. And so if I was I got in the water, I put my tripod in the water to take the cattail shot. So that was a leap of faith,
That's a little more devoted than I'd be, I think.
Luckily it wasn't too deep, it was knee deep, but
But you got to think, like, in terms, I remember seeing a photograph, and it was a bleachers with I think it was an amateur ball team, baseball, and every single one of the people on the top row had a palm tree coming right out the top of their head.
One of the things we learned in school was, when you're looking in the viewfinder, look in the viewfinder, and with your eye, go all the way around the edge.
Good point.
Okay, you want to go all the way around the edge. You want to look for. Steve is asking. Yeah, I have heard of it. I haven't used Cyril. You want to look all the way around. You want to look for palm trees or phone poles coming out of people's heads. You want to look for strange things coming in from the edges that are distracting. And sometimes you can crop those out in post-processing, but sometimes you can't. So we were taught to try to get things right in camera. And of course, back then we were using, we were enlarging on an old enlarger. So you could crop and move the paper around. That was how you cropped when you made your enlargement. But now it's all digital, of course. But
even on Zoom, I'll see like they've got those ceiling fans behind them, and they're like coming right out of their head. It's really funny.
Yeah, and again, it's just trees coming out of heads. Yeah, it's funny. You wouldn't believe.
And you're like, isn't this a professional photographer? How do they not see that? How do they miss it?
Well, they call themselves professional, but
someone paid them money, therefore they're a professional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, All right. Just another one. And you notice the Milky Way is always pointed to the left
Hmm.
in these. Different times of the year, it'll lay down a little more.
Yep.
And different times of the year, the core, the galactic core right here, isn't
Mm-hmm.
even above the horizon.
Mm.
So it's this time of year into about September is when at this latitude is when the core is above the horizon. So again, just another shot, a little different processing is all.
Cutting off feet and arms is also a no-no. It's really hard when children run fast, though. And Don was like, well, it could be intended as like, which part? The palm trees or like cutting off arms and legs?
Depends on how much you like the person that you're taking the photo of.
Got it. Oh, that's a beautiful shot, Bob. Wow.
This was taken in Arizona.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I was on a business trip out there and with some people from our company, and they were there for 3 days, and I took an extra week's vacation and rented a car and drove around and just photographed. Now you can see how tall, straight up and down the Milky Way is here.
Yep.
Hmm.
This was taken in Sedona, actually.
Sedona. Okay, that was my next question. Where were
It's a
you?
little further south than we are, and again, just some light painting. The other way around down here, yeah.
Yeah.
So is this our friend from Australia?
Yes, Cliff says.
Yeah.
Oh, and is that light painting with a flashlight? Good
Yeah,
question.
a flashlight.
Did you light up the rocks, or was that light from somewhere else?
No, that's light from actually a town that was, or a small village that's over to the right.
Mm.
I did not light up the rocks.
It works really well, though.
It does, yeah. I just did the foreground, and it was probably maybe 4 or 5 little sections that you paint. I mean, you put it on the tripod and you leave the shutter open. And again, if you don't have the light on, remember my earlier photos, you can walk around in there, and as long as you don't doidle,
Right.
you don't show up.
Hmm.
And so I'm able to paint here and there, and people are really, really, really good at light painting, and I just play around with it a little bit, but it is a cool effect. So
That's very impressive looking. I think it's amazing.
thank you. This is on the way to Cherry Springs, and
Oh,
this
wow.
is at one of the overlooks, and to me, this is it's showing just the scale of the whole sky, and
Hmm.
Beautiful.
so of course this is all light pollution back here.
See, this is the sort of thing that I remember seeing as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Back before there
Yep.
was as much light pollution.
Mm.
Yep. So Steve's asking a question. You mean you actually walk into the frame with a flashlight? Yes. As long as the flashlight's not pointed towards the camera, I can just have the flashlight off or have my hand over it and just kind of do a quick like this type thing.
Yeah, I remember Cliff did that here, and you basically point the flashlight away from the camera to light up the objects in front of you. Oh my goodness, we got more comments. Daniel says, for how much of the year is the galactic center above the horizon on average?
At this latitude in Pennsylvania, probably from about this time of year, late June till mid-September or early September.
It depends on where you are on the planet, I'm sure.
It does depend on where you're at, and again, the latitude, your latitude,
yeah,
is what determines.
And so, Dee, thanks for joining us. This is the first comment we've heard from you. Have you ever caught a picture of? Do you mean ISS, the International Space Station, or the goddess Isis?
I think maybe that's what she's asking, and yes, and I will show those.
Oh, very good, nice.
Yeah, we'll get to those. This is going to be feature packed.
Hey.
All right. So this one was tracked, I think, and there's just a lot more detail in here.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
See the detail.
Oh yeah.
So
and it's a longer exposure then because it's tracked, right?
it is. And so one of the viewers commented about hot pixels. I believe this is one right here that I didn't take out,
Mm,
but you can see, and then just a little bit of light painting in the foreground.
I got.
We use lights on people to illuminate them. They look a bit ghostly. Yep, you can have so much fun with light painting.
And I think Dee's responding to it's ISS. Did you?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I'm gonna have a fun section on that.
Yeah. Oh,
on the ISS.
So Cliff's about as far away from the equator as we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think this was actually with a different lens. I think this may have been like a 50 millimeter lens. And so going back to my 500 rule, and this was probably on a crop sensor camera that I had. My first camera was like the crop sensor. So I'm at that 330 number instead of the 500 number. And so 50 millimeter into 300 and something, I can only do a 6-second exposure. Well, that's not giving me enough time, to capture an image. So that's why you put it on the tracker.
Yeah.
And
so you have a tripod that's specifically, it's motorized. It tracks just the tripod of the camera, not on a telescope.
No, it just tracks. It's just a little unit, mounts on top of the tripod.
Okay.
And, yep. And then you have to align it though to Polaris.
Yes.
And I'll show that in a little bit. Because obviously everything rotates in the northern hemisphere. Everything rotates around Polaris.
Right.
The folks in the southern hemisphere, they've got a whole different challenge on their hands. Their alignment and it isn't quite as simple, from what I understand. So maybe our friend from Australia can help me with that.
Dawn wants to know, is that Omega Centauri at the bottom of the Milky Way? She says we can't see that. Well, she's in northern Ohio, so
Omega Centauri.
Maybe you're just a little farther south.
Where is she?
Like Cleveland area?
No, she's talking about where's Omega Centauri.
Is it at the bottom of the Milky Way? We can't see that. There's quite a few things at the bottom there.
I can't honestly answer that. Maybe someone else can help with that. And
it looks so different than when you just walk out the door and look at the sky, because you can't see any of that cloudy stuff.
No, these are all dust lanes.
Yeah.
That's in the core of the Milky Way. This is all dust. I mean, there's stars there, but it's obscured by this dust.
Maybe in infrared you can catch them. Okay, Liam says those two at the bottom are M7 and M6 open clusters in Scorpius. Oh, interesting, because here, when I see those, they're like way up in the sky. Of course, I'm farther south in Southern California.
Maybe these two is what he's referring to. So we can come back to this.
Yeah, open clusters. Yeah, those look like stars to me, Bob. The open clusters. Well, and I don't know. I haven't taken any pictures like this, so.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he says yes. Those two.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Thanks, Lance. Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah,
when you get to knowing the sky a bit more, you kind of start seeing.
Yeah, and it's great to have those level of people attend, participate in the show, because I don't know the sky like I should know the sky.
Yeah. M6
okay. Good.
Yeah, I can see pretty much all of Scorpius on a clear night when it's like middle of the summer, soon, like right now, soon.
Well, Scorpius would be over here. You mean the constellation Scorpius?
The whole asterism, yeah.
Yeah. So, the heart of that is Antares. And it's off to the right here. I didn't capture that in this image.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is just another one again.
Beautiful.
It's just, yeah, it's just, there's nothing fantastic about it. It's just this is the view at Cherry Springs. It's just amazing.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
Daniel says he's hearing that there are about 60 candidate stars that might have Dyson spheres now. My goodness. I did not hear that.
Great.
That'd be a hell of an undertaking, though.
Yeah.
Dyson sphere.
So I think that's my Milky Way shots. I think.
Oh, polar alignment is hard in southern hemisphere.
Okay.
Polaris.
Okay. Yes. I know they look for a constellation. They use the Southern Cross, and
yeah, makes sense.
There's another constellation that they use to help get them aligned in the Southern Hemisphere. So it is, and Polaris isn't the exact center of the North Celestial Pole, but it's very close. So
I think Daniel's referring to the Dyson spheres there.
Mm-hmm.
And Lance says Sigma.
That's it. Yep. Sigma. Yep. Correct.
Octans.
Yep. Octans.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody.
Yep. Thank you.
I love this hive mind.
Okay, let me jump out of this one.
Sure.
So let's see, where are we going here?
Thank you so much for sticking around with us, Bob. I know it's getting late there.
Oh, I'm running on adrenaline now. Without getting too far into detail, let me kind of just talk a little bit about equipment. And I don't know who's doing photography in this group or not. So this is very basic. How I got started was, like I said, just a basic crop sensor DSLR with the kit lens. A lot of my images were taken in the beginning with the kit lens. And so we need a tripod with a ball head. Okay.
All right.
Just anything. This is a little short one that I got for obviously getting low to the ground and getting a different perspective up high. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we just need a remote release that fits your camera, because we don't want to touch the shutter to release the.
So what's that? Is that like a remote for the TV? Is it kind of just a little handheld thing?
They come two ways. They come corded. I have them both ways. I have a corded one. I need to put this body cap on. And this camera here, this D850, that has corded, but it also has a cordless one. So I can stand way back and light paint way back and then release the shutter. There's that's a radio frequency one. Plugs in right here.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, you could spend a lot of money on this hobby, couldn't you?
Oh, and we're not even into the deep space stuff yet.
Right.
And I hope my wife's asleep. Let's put it that way.
She doesn't know how to use YouTube.
No, she doesn't. She's on Facebook though. So just some basic settings. I try to set my lens wide open. Honestly, I try to go one stop closed down just because it sharpens the lens just a little bit. And use the 500 rule for your shutter speed. Again, take your focal length of your lens, divide it into that magic number. And I would start at like ISO 1600, depends on your camera, 1600, 3200, something like that. And you'll be amazed at what you see on the back of the camera. It really literally is amazing what the camera picks up that you can't see.
Now, do you you said that you stopped down by one step. Is that because there are edge artifacts, or?
Yes. It helps to sharpen it a little bit, and all lenses suffer from some type of aberrations,
Yeah.
Right.
and they're usually worse out on the edges. Okay. Now you can crop those out generally. Okay.
Right.
But if you stop down, even if it's just half a stop, generally a lot of lenses will benefit from that.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, good to know, Lance. He says you can find some rather inexpensive digital cameras out on the internet. Buyer beware. But I have scored both digital and SLR.
Absolutely. Especially now since the mirrorless cameras have swamped the market.
mhm.
The good old mirror cameras you can buy reasonable, and buyer beware is correct. A little tip that you can do is, and not necessarily from the big box stores like B&H or Adorama. There's another outfit, I think it's called MBH, that I bought this 14 to 24 Nikon lens from, like half of what the retail knew.
Wow.
But if you're buying it from like an individual or off of eBay or something, have them take a photo, a JPEG photo, and there are websites that you can upload the photo to, and it will return back the shutter count on the camera.
Huh.
And so the shutter count is, I'll answer that in a second. The shutter count is really important on consumer level DSLRs. They're good for
How
maybe
many times it's been
Yeah.
activated?
exactly
Oh, you can get that. Interesting. I didn't know.
150,000. Yes, it's all recorded in the camera. XF data. That's the file data. So there is a website, and I can get that. Maybe we can get that to the viewers.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So, but you have to upload a JPEG photo, a JPEG file format, and then it will instantly come back, and it'll give you all the parameter. It'll tell you the serial number of the camera.
Wow.
It'll tell you, and more, especially the shutter count.
That's amazing.
A friend of mine was looking at a camera on Craigslist, and the guy advertised, "Oh, it's only got 700 shutters on it, images taken." Well, we did the image upload, and it ended up being like 7,000.
Okay.
Okay,
At
so
least he knew what that was. That's kind of
yeah, so him making the comment, buyer beware, he's absolutely correct. But there are ways that you can actually find out the truth on what you're buying. So
nice. Sort of like Carfax.
so the other comment was what about
Yeah.
ISO? Okay. ISO has nothing to do with the 500 rule.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay. Yeah.
And we do have one more from Cliff. He's been here twice. Very worth it though. Yep.
Great. Maybe they'll ask me back for something, and
Oh yeah.
then I'll be.
Oh yeah. We can come. You can come back. You clearly got a wealth of knowledge that we would love to participate in.
Well, the problem is I get into too many, and it just drags on and on and on. So I'm trying to keep things moving. So okay, so that's the basic photo. One of the other tips is you want to make sure you're focused. Autofocus does not work at night on the stars.
Makes sense.
So you want to disable that. And usually it's a switch on the side of the camera or on the side of the lens somewhere. And so on the back of your screen, most cameras have what's called a live view. And you switch the camera to live view, and it displays what's coming through the lens on the back of the screen. And you can actually turn the focus ring by hand and focus, and you zoom in on a star, and you can focus. If it looks like a donut with a whole hollow middle, it's out of focus. So you just move the ring back and forth a little bit until that's as tight as you can get it, and you're in focus, and that's good enough.
Wow.
So,
that's amazing. So
yeah.
what's one thing I can do with my little cell phone camera to get better at photos? Because I know there's an ISO feature on here. I don't really know how to use it. I don't know what it means.
Yep. So the I think the thing that's going to help you the most is if you're out shooting at night is prop it against something. Okay. That'll keep it from you. It's as tight as you think you're holding it. It's going to jiggle.
Because you're breathing, your heart's beating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Whatever, so try to prop it against the car hood, the roof, whatever. And then it's probably has a night mode.
Yes.
Most of the cameras do have a night mode.
Right.
Just let the camera do its own thing.
Okay.
A guy in the club has one of the iPhones, and it has, and I couldn't believe the Milky Way pictures he was getting off of it. It was unbelievable.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, they are the new cell phone cameras. And I've heard a rumor for a long time that the cell phone, the DSLRs are going out, and actually they're being replaced by the cell phones.
Yeah, that'll bring the price down some more, even, won't it?
I don't know that that's actually true. But the nice thing about a cell phone is and I'll talk about this a little later, it's instant gratification.
Yes.
You've got it. I can post it. I can share it. I can send it to anybody right then.
I love that. So that's interesting. 25,000. Wow.
250,000.
250,000. Yeah.
So a lot of Canon cameras are at the professional level, and they have my D850 is up there as well. They have a higher shutter count than some of the.
Yeah.
Don't hold the camera. Yeah. So you can get a little, if you want to really get extravagant, you can get a little holder for it. You can get them off of, I think even Amazon, and put it on a little tripod. Anything to hold it steady.
Good, cool.
To keep it from jiggling.
Yep, I have taken a just handheld photo, and it turned out okay, but I think something more still would even be better.
And then give it like a 3-second delay before the shutter too.
Correct.
That way the jiggle from just touching the screen will go away.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Steve made this comment here. He's absolutely right. There are things that a DSLR does that an iPhone, it will be a long time. For one thing, the interchangeable lenses. I mean, my Android has 3 lenses on it, and so it's got 3 different views. An iPhone probably has the same thing, but you don't have, of course, the flexibility you get from a DSLR. So
yeah.
Okay. Let me jump into a couple other things real quick.
Sure.
All right.
This is fantastic.
Good. I'm glad we're entertained.
Yeah, I'm loving this. This is really amazing. Daniel says, "Will most 4K cameras work as good as good movie cameras as well?"
I
don't even know what a 4K camera is, Daniel.
Oh, yeah. It's the number of pixels.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, isn't it using meg?
Yeah.
Meg?
Well,
okay.
Yeah. The thing with the camera is, for a movie camera, because I actually know a little bit about this because I know people who do movie cameras, is that they're stabilized so that you don't see the jiggle.
Mm-hmm.
And so unless you've got a rig to stabilize your own camera, and they do make them, they're expensive as heck.
They are.
They make them. Is that you need to stabilize it. There's software that de-jiggles, but then that adds its own artifacts. So,
but do they have the low light capabilities?
Yeah. I don't know that a regular movie camera does, but it's been 20 years since I played with any of that stuff. So that's really old news.
Jamie says, "Great photos and generous sharing of your expertise."
Well, thank you.
Another great guest and show. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
We're loving this.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, you got another picture, right?
I did. So I've got just a couple moon photos.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
So
beautiful.
This is called Earthshine.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we know what causes it. The light is reflected off Earth. Sunlight's reflected off Earth back to the dark side of the moon.
Right.
And because 70-some% of the Earth is ocean. The light is blue, so it's lighting up the dark side of the moon.
I didn't know that was why it. Well, it looks kind of gray to me usually.
Yeah, my eyes don't pick up enough.
It does, and I probably jacked this up a little bit in post, just for the effect. But
oh, it's beautiful.
This was taken in my front yard through my neighbor's trees.
Nice. Wow.
And look at guess what else we're experiencing? Star trails.
Ah.
So, but unless you zoom way in, it's not an issue,
Right.
So, yeah, I thought this was a great shot.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Be nice on a wall, like just displayed on a wall.
And actually this was taken probably with a 200 millimeter lens, and just to get the framing I wanted. And so that didn't help the star trails either.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you were saying the rule of 500, you divide it.
Yeah. You're
probably more.
Well, and again though, but now I'm shooting the moon, and it's very bright. So, and actually this was 2 exposures. I have to be honest. This was 2 exposures, one for the bright side, one for the dark side, and then brought together. Because you can't get both in one shot. There's a thing called dynamic range, and some cameras are better at it than others. And dynamic range is the ability to capture details in both the shadows and the highlights at the same time. Our eyes are very, very good at it. Cameras, they're not as good as the human eye. So
right. Well, they're just different, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next one.
Oh yeah, you want to take up questions first?
Sure. Yeah.
Cliff is. I don't know what all this means. And Astro cameras. D5. Do you know what that means? I don't know what that means.
These are Nikon models. I don't know what he's. D500. That's a nice camera. It's a sports camera.
I see. Okay.
But it is a nice camera. I'm not familiar with all of the other models, but I am familiar with Astro cameras. So I think he's just mentioning good camera models. So.
Okay, is the Astro camera the one that sort of stacks live and sharpens the image as time goes on? Oh wait, let's get you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'll get into this a little more.
It just looks like a can.
Yeah, it looks like a red coffee can.
Yeah. I guess 8K is the new high end.
There's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those before. Yeah. The other one you had is really big. That's a. Oh, here's a good question. Contrast ratio, is that the same as dynamic range?
I think it could be. I think it could be. Yes, I believe it is the same.
Okay.
And these are all great questions because they're really getting me thinking, and that's what we want.
So you're going to be up for an hour or two after the show looking some of this stuff up, aren't you?
I am. If I can.
Oh no.
Yeah. If I can get
Saturday, you can do it tomorrow.
No, we're good. I'm watching the time. If you guys are good, I'm good. So. All right. So.
No.
11 telescopes.
That's what he has. And
that's what he has 11 eyeballs.
Okay, gotcha.
That's why he's been having rain for 2 years straight.
And he's got deep pockets. So
yes.
Okay, let me jump to another one.
All righty. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, I see it. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So we know what this
is. That's an actual eclipse, right?
This is the lunar eclipse. Yep.
Nice.
Taken on a very, very cold January night. Shot through the beech tree in my backyard. Mm-hmm. And this is on a star tracker as well, because this was taken probably with a 400 millimeter lens. And so it had to be on a star tracker. So obviously two shots here again, one for the moon and the stars, and then another one for the beach branches, and then brought together. But you can see, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, it's not quite a full, this was at full, as full as it got. Let me put it that way. So you can see it's not quite covered up here. It's still some white showing up here. See this?
Yeah.
So, but it's amazing. They call this the blood moon.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see it in the sky.
Yeah.
So I don't shoot too many moon pictures. I do have another one I'm going to share in a little bit.
Well, the moon's awful bright. You have to get filters, and
it is very bright, and it is very difficult to shoot, to be honest with you, because what's happening is it's fooling the meter in your camera, because you've got all this dark area, and then you got this bright white thing in the middle, or wherever you're putting it, and you have to do some serious exposure adjusting to not to clip, I call it clip, or blow out the moon, overexpose the moon, and lose all the details. So the moon is very hard, and people come to me, I can't, I shoot the moon and it's just a white glob in the sky, and it's because it's fooling the meter in your phone or your camera.
I've seen some folks take really, really good pictures of the progression of the Terminator. They'll see more and more of the features.
Yeah.
I mean, the moon is so bright, you almost need to do that to get it something interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to show you coming up here. Okay, so let me get out of this one. And do we have any more questions at this time?
I don't see any just yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a couple more comments though.
Oh, okay.
Daniel says,
I missed that one. Sorry, Daniel.
Dynamic display use, or I think displays use contrast ratio and image sensors dynamic range.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I showed that one.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you say. That's why it rains, and no, I don't have deep pockets.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
They're deep enough, Cliff.
So let me move on. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, you're not quite ready. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So let me jump into this one.
Oh, and while he's doing that,
go ahead, Cliff.
Cliff says 90%, 95% total eclipse of the moon, and I fit the camera on the back of the telescope. Yeah.
Okay. So I had mine on a Sigma telephoto lens, a zoom lens. So kind of the same thing.
Looks like you're ready now, right?
Yeah, I am ready.
There we go. Oh, that's neat.
Star trails.
I haven't even done that.
What's that?
I haven't even done that.
I love star trails.
Yeah, it's neat.
But I shoot my star trails differently. Instead of leaving the shutter open forever and, getting the movement of the stars across the sensor, what I do is I set up my camera and get my framing before it gets dark, and then I'll wait until like maybe it's the sunset or whatever, and then I'll take a couple series of images, and I leave the camera, I don't touch it, and then I wait for it to get dark, and I readjust my settings, and then I start taking individual star images. So there's probably 200 star images here.
Wow.
Okay. And so that's got a couple benefits. One, I'm not heating the sensor up and causing a lot of noise by a long exposure time. All right. The other thing is, by not having that long exposure time, I'm capturing the colors of the stars. Stars aren't really white. Stars are colored, and it depends on the color temperature that they burn. And Terry's, the heart of Scorpius is that red looking, there's some stars that are super white blue giants. Rigel and Orion is a super hot white blue star. So they burn at different temperatures. So by keeping your exposure time reasonable, you're not what photographers call clipping, which means you're not overexposing the pixels in the sensor.
Hmm.
Okay, they're like buckets, and they'll fill up full of light photons. Okay, if they get full, they're white, they're saturated, and they can't take any more light, so they become white. Okay, so if you can keep your bucket partially full, then you've recorded the true colors, and you can see.
I've seen binaries that had two different colors too.
Going
Yeah.
to a picture.
I mean, and again, but if you take a picture of it and if you overexpose those, you're not going to see the two colors.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So here's the other thing about star trails is look at the arc. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the other learning thing. Okay. So this kind of teaches you the mechanics of the night sky.
Yes.
And so it shows you that these stars are arcing around a particular celestial pole. This is looking to the south, so they're arcing around the south celestial pole. If we're looking to the north, they'll rotate around Polaris,
Right. They appear
which is at the north celestial pole. Okay, so they're arcing. This is showing the mechanics, in other words, of what I call the mechanics of the night sky and how the night sky moves. If that makes sense.
Oh,
yeah. Cliff has a couple more.
Oh, okay.
Work hard. Yeah, he works hard.
Yeah.
I use the same thing with lenses too, with my Skywatcher Tracker Pro and any camera I have on hand.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice.
Did you switch pictures?
Yeah, here's another one. Yep.
Oh, let me share.
Sorry.
There it is. It's fine.
Yep. So
like
here's another one. This was actually taken at my sister's house in North Carolina. They had just painted this barn red. And so just a little bit of light painting. I got my base shot, what I call my base shot. I did my light painting. I left the tripod set up, and then I did my individual star shots. And you can see some colors in them.
That's so interesting. I've never heard anybody say that before.
What's that?
That they took individual shots of the stars.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then what I do is I take all those individual shots and I'll batch process them. Okay. And I'll talk just a little bit about file types. Most of my images, almost all of my images, I shoot in raw file format. That records the most data, and it allows me the most flexibility when I'm in post-processing.
Okay.
If you pick the JPEG format, that applies some type of processing to it. And like if you go into your camera and you get to pick portrait mode, landscape mode, sunset mode, food mode, all of these modes are applying what the camera manufacturers think that particular subject might look best with. Okay.
Right.
But by doing that, it's taking away some of the image, some of the processability, if that's a word, of the image, and it's just throwing it away. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to do it myself. So on these base images, I'll shoot them in RAW because I get to fiddle around with it. But the star pictures I'll shoot in JPEG because they're a smaller file size. And if I've got several hundred of them, I don't want to deal with this camera right here takes a 45 megabyte image. And, where these take a 20 some megabyte image, So if you've got 200 images, you're dealing with a lot of big files.
Yep.
So I use JPEGs for the stars. I can still manipulate them a little bit, and they're smaller file sizes. So then I take those JPEGs and I put them into a program called Star Stacks. And what it does is it takes all of those stars, and because they're moving from one frame to the next, Okay, I'll probably take 3 shots a minute. Every 20 seconds, I'll take a shot. So between those 20 seconds, those stars are moving. They're marching across the sensor. Well, Star Stacks puts all them together, and that's what makes the trails.
Mm.
Okay, then I take, and it'll make one image from that, and then I combine that with my base image, and that's how I do my star trails.
Yeah.
And you can see I'm missing some. I'm missing some data right here.
Huh.
Right. Yeah.
You see, like right here, here's a star, but there's a gap. So for whatever reason,
I see
I'm
it. Yeah.
missing some data right there.
Right. And you can see it on most of the trails.
Yeah.
Has the same gap.
Yeah, you see the gaps on all of them.
Yeah. And Bob, just so you know, JPEG actually compresses the image. And so whenever you compress, you lose some information. So that's what's going on there.
Can you uncompress it though?
Well, yeah, but you've already lost. Basically,
I see.
you run an algorithm on the compression and it blows it back up, but it basically is approximating the original image.
Okay. Unlike a vector, which kind of gives you the rules of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
A couple more. I love this. Stop scaring the flat Earth people. Arcs in the sky. Data only in a raw format. Play with it, then convert it to JPEG. Good.
That's true.
Data's good.
I do almost everything in raw format.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't quite understand that. I guess with the camera you have, you can choose that as a setting or something.
I think on maybe some of the newer cell phones, you can even pick that as well.
Oh, interesting.
Well, and TIFF is it's not quite raw, but it's really close. It's close.
Mm-hmm.
It's as close as a lot of cameras get.
I haven't seen that for a long time though. TIFF.
TIFF, yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I either shoot in uncompressed raw,
right,
which is like 14-bit, or I shoot in large JPEG.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's not quite as much compression, like you said, Jeff. So.
Yeah, and if you're doing the stars, there's not a lot that those compress really well and don't lose a lot of the data because it's, a bundle of this color, then a whole bunch of nothing, and another bundle of color. So
right.
So Steve says Astro cameras take in FIT format.
They do use the FIT format. He's correct.
I have never heard of that. Okay.
Yep.
I've heard of, but I don't know anything about it.
And it's just, I don't know why it uses FIT. Maybe he knows, but it's just one more problem with astrophotography, in my opinion, because only certain programs will read a FIT file. Where almost everything will read a JPEG, and everything will pretty much read a raw file, be it from a Canon or a Nikon camera. Of course, they're different files, but but a FIT file, I think it just has more information in it. So let me see if I have one more to share here. Okay.
All righty.
Let
me know when you're ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, there it is. Oh, beautiful.
So we're back in Arizona.
Yeah, it looks like.
And this is pointed to the east. And in the upper left-hand corner, so the stars are rotating around the North Celestial Pole. And then, and I've got another image that shows it better. But if you look over the top of this butte, they call these things butte in Arizona's. You can see the stars are pointed and going to the upper right-hand corner, but they're in a straight line. They're not really curving like the ones in the upper left-hand corner are. They're on I believe it's called the celestial equator, which means they're like right in the middle. They're not in the northern part. They're not in the southern part. So they follow a straight line. And I've seen this on several star trails. So same thing here. These stars are really heavy processed, but you can see the colors.
Wow.
Yeah, especially toward the upper left corner. You can see a lot of color in those.
Yeah. And what I did then was I also included just one image of the stars,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it caught. Look at here. Here's Andromeda.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
See that?
Mhm.
So I don't know why I did that. I just threw that in there, being just one image of just stars and not part of the track. So, but anyway, it turned out to be a pretty cool shot. So
Yeah. Well, that's where you're making art instead of just taking
Yeah.
correct.
a snap.
And you're learning. It's a learning curve,
Yeah.
So
We have more comments. This is so exciting. Okay, you ready?
yeah.
All the NASA telescope sky data is in fit.
I think so, because you can go on the James Webb, you can actually pull down Hubble and James Webb information and
That's
process it yourself. And I think it is fit format.
Yep. On Astrocam, Astrocams are totally different. And Steve's, yes, Steve, they are. Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah, there's some robotic telescopes out there that you can kind of order up. Hey, I would like to see this, and then you can process them in there too. So
yeah,
very interesting stuff.
Yep.
Lots of options.
I think I have another one here. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Oh, I see purple. Yay.
So
look at that.
This was taken, the base shot was taken right after sunset. There was still some red on the red rocks. Okay. And then again, I left everything set up and then took my individual star images. So this is funny. Well, a couple things. So you can see the stars rotating.
Yes.
This way, okay, to the north. And then here, down here, they're rotating the opposite direction.
Yeah, I was going to say they're almost like heading.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah.
And then here in the middle, they're straight.
Yeah.
See that?
That's very evident in this picture.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Very cool.
So
and the light painted bushes on the center are kind of at the center of the straight ones.
Well, there's another reason for that. Right down here is a road. It's a highway. And so when I took the base shot, you didn't really see it. But when I started taking after dark and I started taking the individual sky shots or the star shots, the headlights all showed up down here. So what I did was I took a piece of cardboard, or I think I had a brochure or something with me, and I covered the bottom half of the lens.
Oh, wow.
So I covered that up, but I still got the stars. So you got to be creative sometimes with things.
So that you covered up to eliminate the lights from the cars?
Yeah, the headlights from the car.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, covered the bottom, because I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do here? Because they were steady through there, So that's the other thing why I kind of like the tree there. It was hiding some of that. So, and I did some white painting there. So
you ready for more comments?
Yes, I am.
All right. So Steve, he says, not just, I guess JW mean James Webb Space Telescope, but any of many worldwide observatories.
Right.
Okay.
That's what you were talking about, Pam, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking about the robotic ones, which I don't know what they use.
Yeah. But basically fits is a more academic.
Oh, I see. NASA has a free fit converter you can download. Thanks, Dawn. Dawn was a contractor, worked at NASA Glenn for a while. And then Steve comes back with Cyril. Free processing app can also convert
fit. Right. Okay.
So, good to know. Oh, good stuff, people. Thank you so much for participating.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
What else you got, Bob?
Let's see. Okay, so I think this is the last one. Let's switch to this.
Let me show it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did not take this one. I pulled this one down off of the internet, and I gave this gentleman credit. Okay. But I just wanted to show how dramatic.
That's very dramatic.
And this was taken, I can tell this was taken with a very, very wide lens, because you can see the distortion in the building and the trees.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Okay, and so that's why he got such a dramatic.
A spread. Yeah.
You know, he's got so much field of view that he's
Yeah.
got a lot of the sky there. Okay,
Mhm.
and then look at all his colors he's got.
Yeah,
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah. So thank you to this gentleman, and again, I wanted to give him credit for this. So
Nice.
okay. So that's the star trails. Let me show you something else that's kind of fun. Let me get out of this one.
Yep. Take your time
Yeah.
and let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Let me get there. Um, okay, go ahead.
Oh my goodness. It already looks cool. There you go.
So
Wow. What am I
Um,
seeing?
when I do like a presentation, I
Yeah.
show this image and I'll say, and what I do is I buy up some Starbucks gift cards ahead of time, and in order to kind of keep my audience engaged and awake, I'll say, I'll say, you know, if someone can tell me what this is, you get a Starbucks, pun intended, gift card. You know,
No clue.
so this is actually the star Sirius, and
Okay.
this is stars twinkle. We know that. Okay.
The atmosphere. Yeah.
Okay. From the atmosphere, it's called scintillation.
Yes.
And what's happening is the atmosphere is breaking up the white light color of the pinpoint of the star.
Mm.
If
Okay.
you take and handhold your camera with a fairly decent long camera lens, like maybe 200 millimeter, and you just move it around.
Oh.
This is one time you don't want it on the tripod.
Oh my goodness.
You handhold it and move it around. As the star is moving across the sensor, it's flickering different colors.
Oh
The
my goodness.
sensor at that particular instant is picking up those colors.
Wow.
If you were really good, you could write your name with this.
Mhm.
And you really get a sense of the fact that it is, you know, this twinkling.
Yeah. Is that cool or what?
That's so cool.
Yeah, yes, sir. I am totally serious.
Yeah, thanks, Cliff.
But it only works on stars. You know, planets not so much because
Interesting.
they are they are a resolvable disk.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, stars are not resolvable, meaning uh, if you the highest power telescope you can find, there's still going to be a pinpoint of light because of the distance they are.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, right.
Yes. Even
So
with a small telescope, you can see like the disk and the rings of Saturn, and
correct. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
that is-
because they're closer.
yeah.
You know, we can resolve them as a disk, and the disk typically doesn't work like this.
Right.
So
It's
when
still
Sirius,
twinkles. Yeah.
pardon me,
It still twinkles, but it's averaged out over the
correct. I did read that. You're correct.
Oh,
Yes,
interesting. Okay.
it's averaged out, but
Wow.
this works really well on Sirius, and Sirius is a winter star here in
Yes.
Pennsylvania. So get out and try this. It is so cool, and you know, you have to do a little post processing, you know, because you kind of guessing at your exposure and so forth and so on, you know. So, but yeah, this is a fun image. So
That's wild.
okay,
And Steve says resolvable. That puzzles me because we speak of the ability to resolve, say, two binary stars about 2 or 3 arc seconds apart.
but those stars, you're still not you're resolving the distance between them, but you're not the stars are huge.
Mhm.
Okay, you're not seeing that big ball of fire like you are the sun in the
Right.
sky, and the sun is so much closer. So with a filter on a telescope, you're seeing a round ball. Even Sirius, as close as it is, it's like what 25 light years away.
Oh,
It's you still can't. see a ball. It's just a point of light.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, space is big.
yeah, it is big. And
Yeah.
and we're going to get into that too. So okay, so let me get into the deep sky stuff. Okay.
Alrighty.
Nice.
Okay. So let me get out of this.
I have never seen a picture like that you just showed us.
Yeah, isn't that
I was
cool?
serious with.
Yeah, that is really cool.
That's amazing, and I don't think I would have ever guessed that either.
And again, if you're really good, you can write your name, Pam. You know. Okay, so let's see here. Where am I? DSO. Okay, so I got interested in the deep space stuff. Go ahead, Pam.
Ah, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Eastern Veil Nebula.
I was gonna say, is that the Veil Nebula? I
The
wasn't quite sure.
Eastern. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this is about 3 hours worth of exposure.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. And this is just beautiful. I'm telling you, all these little wispy filaments through this thing are just insane.
Wow.
You know,
And you took this picture, Bob.
I took this at Cherry Springs.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this is just gorgeous.
Yeah, this looks like something that I would see on APOD.
Yes.
Well, and I'm going to get to that. So let me show another one. And I can go back to any of these if anybody wants to, come back to them. Of course, this is Andromeda.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, M31. This is M110, I think, and maybe M32 here. I'm not sure. So, there's a million images of Andromeda. And this, there's a lot of imagers that do a much better job than I do. So
Still, to believe that you can go out and take a camera, a decent piece of equipment, and get something like this yourself, that kind of blows my mind.
it is. And
It's very nice.
Cliff says that's nice. Thank you, sir. I'm the average Joe. Okay. I have a photo background, but it's just about f-stops and shutter speeds and knowing the basics, but I have to say there's a very steep learning curve to astrophotography. And because I'm not going to blow smoke to anybody, because it's an investment, not only in equipment, but in time and patience. And then when you get everything all set up and running just the way you want it to be, then the clouds roll through, right? We've been there, right?
Yep. Even here.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a class would be a big help. So I think we should look at your website. Here it is again.
Central Pennsylvania is terrible for any kind of astronomy. I'm telling you, it's disheartening. Okay, so let me jump to the next one here. Okay, this is Triangulum M33, right?
Beautiful.
And this was about another 3 hours worth of exposure. And so when I say 3 hours worth of exposure, it's not 1 3 hour exposure. It's probably 3 minute exposures, and then 3 hours worth of 3 minute exposures.
So three.
And then that, Pam, that's where the stacking comes in.
Right.
And it was mentioned earlier, Deep Sky Stacker. PixInsight stacks. There are a lot of programs out now that stack. I just use Deep Sky Stacker. And again, these are fit files, okay, that come off the camera.
Got it.
So, but this is really beautiful too, because all these little nebula right here are in that galaxy. So we're taking images of nebula in another galaxy. And this galaxy is like almost 2.5 million light years away.
Those must be really big nebula then. My goodness.
Yeah, they got to be huge. You're right. I mean, there's all kinds of them through here.
Yeah.
And something
And-
bright is lighting them up too.
Mm.
Pardon me?
And something really bright is lighting them up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yep.
Got a new comment.
Okay.
Sorry. The Veil Nebula. Yep, it's awesome. How do you decide what colors to process? I mean, for example, the NA Nebula has a lot of different colors, but different DSO astronomers show some variation in color.
So this is where your photo is your photo. Okay. Thank you, Cliff. If you're trying to mimic a Hubble or a James Webb photo, that's fine. You can work as hard as you want.
Wow.
To me, it's like pushing a big boulder up a hill that I'll never get to the top. So you have to decide for yourself, oh, that's a great photo. I did the best I could with it. It's pleasing to me. The colors look good to me. Yes, I can take it and have it printed, and I'm going to put it on my office wall or in my home.
Yeah.
And you're going to be satisfied with it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the problem with deep sky images, because they're flooded. The market is flooded with them because of James Webb and because of Hubble. And we're trying to mimic that instead of being our own person, our own photographer, or our own artist. We're trying to match what they have, what's already done. What's already done, why match it? That's my opinion on it.
I love that.
So
Yeah.
I like the individuality of photography, and that's what I learned a long time ago.
Mm.
Yeah. I think it's the difference between being academic and artistic.
It is, and it's a fine line.
Mhm.
I mean, if I were to recolor this thing and make it purple, a lot of people wouldn't know the difference.
Right.
But if I make a red stop sign green, people are going to know the difference. And so that's that fine line. You have to abide by some rules. But photography is all about individuality. It's just like painting or sculpture or any other type of art.
Well put.
So
that bright red nebula in M33 always reminds me of the Tarantula Nebula.
Yep. Thank you.
Steve comes back, yet some portions of a nebula are oxygen and other parts are hydrogen, but without looking at other photos, we can't see which.
So I'll touch base on that in a second. Let's see what else I've got here. I'm going to go on to the next one.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So this is M45.
My favorite.
The Pleiades, right?
Yep.
The Seven Sisters, right? So I know everybody listening on this channel tonight has heard the bar joke about the Pleiades. So it's known as M45, the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters. It's in Japan. The name for the Pleiades is Subaru.
Subaru,
Yep.
Yes.
So where have we seen Subaru? On every 100 times a day, I see a Subaru car.
One outside here.
Yeah, there you go.
That's why we got the brand we have.
Yeah. So look at the emblem, and it's either a blue or a black background.
Yep.
Field with 6 stars in it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the mythology is behind the seventh sister. I have no idea where she ran off to, but in their emblem, they have 6 stars.
Right.
So this is about 2 hours worth of exposure.
Wow.
And you can see this is very, very dusty and dirty here because of all this dust and dirt. And actually, I heard that these stars are behind. All of this nebulosity is not intermixed with the stars. These stars are behind the nebulosity, and they're shining through it.
Yeah, I looked it up, and it's a reflection nebula. There's like 3 or 4 different kinds of nebula that this represents. It's wild. It's like, wait, it's all kinds of things.
So these are this is like maybe a couple hours worth, but these are only 90-second exposures
Hmm.
because these stars are so bright that I didn't want to clip or overexpose, fill my buckets in my
Right.
camera sensor, overflow them to where there's no more detail. And so you've got to try to eliminate that exposure time so you don't clip things.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a little different than what I've normally seen. In fact, I remember seeing this for the first time, and every time I look at it again, I'm like, that looks like an angel.
Yeah, it does, doesn't
It's
it?
really neat.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, going to move on.
Yeah, and Steve says, I appreciate the ability of artistic license, but scientific accuracy has a place.
Yep.
Well, and here's a
It
good
does.
example. The Pleiades looks very different in Bob's image than anything I've ever seen. So yeah, I'm good with both, a bit of both.
So going back to that, if I strive to make the scientific photo, what have I done? The scientific photo's already been made. I'm just proving to myself or to my peers that I can make what the James Webb did. But, well, that's never going to happen because I'm shooting through so many hundred miles of atmosphere.
Yes.
So again, it's pushing that boulder up the hill. I'm never going to get there. So one of the gentlemen commented about the North American Nebula and the different ways it can be processed. And so this is the North American Nebula. This is the way I processed it. This was done in PixInsight. So
that's neat.
Yeah. So I mean, again, my mount, my tracking mount was spot on. I mean, these stars are just perfect pinpoints.
Nice.
Through here. So yeah. So again, it's kind of a do your own thing,
Yeah.
Would I frame this and put it on the wall? Yeah, probably. I don't know. Why not? But is it any different than the free calendar I can pick up at the next astronomy show, or APOD? I don't know. Everything is so subjective.
I think it's different. I've seen this nebula before, but never quite like this.
I've seen these blue and, different, all processed different ways, and those may be accurate. Mine may be way off. Who knows?
Easy to blow out. They can be
yeah,
very bright.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So see these some of these bright stars, like right here. See, I still got some color in them. They're not quite blown out. This one's got some blue to it. This one's got a little color to it. So, but he's absolutely right. You've got to be careful with these because you can blow them out.
Oh, Jake Demo, thanks for being here with us. This is the first time we've seen your comment.
Auto white balance. No. The white balance is the FITS file should not have any white balance to it. So it should be your white balance is the white balance. PixInsight actually has a step to it that you put in the RA and DEC of the image, and it knows the color of the sky at that RA and DEC, and it automatically applies the correct. I think this is the way it works. It automatically applies the correct white balance.
Wow. So for those who don't know, RA and DEC refers to right ascension and declination. It's sort of like if you took our Latin lawn on the planet Earth and kind of projected it out there.
Correct.
It's sort of the same thing, and it helps us to find things in the sky based on that grid.
Correct.
Oh, the FIT is a raw.
Yeah.
No process.
Yeah, right. No processing, which means no white balance applied to it either.
Okay. Interesting. Man, I've learned more in just these 2 hours than anything ever anywhere else.
You won't ask me back again. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, we will. If you're willing, I know it's really late there.
That's okay. Let me move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You ready?
So this is
go.
Go ahead.
Cluster. Some of my favorite.
M13. right?
Mhm.
Right on.
So this is not that great of a photo, and I don't even know why I kept it, because I guess because it's the only one. I had planned to reshoot this summer. The center of this is completely overcooked.
Mhm.
M13, this star cluster has hundreds of thousands of stars in it.
Yes.
And when this is shot properly, you can see a lot of the stars, individuals. And they're all these different colors. Look, they're blues and yellows. And, you know, these are the star colors that I was talking about earlier in the star trails. But let me go over one more thing. So in your book, Pam, you talk about apod. And,
Yes.
and I think it's in your first chapter.
Yep.
Mhm.
And,
Chapter 1.
Yep. See, I did read it.
Yep.
And so this is what I love to do with these images, and they're all like this. Photographers do a thing called pixel peep. And what they do is they zoom way in on an image to find problems, flaws, like hot pixels or dust motes, things like that.
Mm.
And so, but what I do is I zoom way in and pixel peep, and I'm looking for other galaxies.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And you can do that with the apod images. If
Ooh.
you right click on an apod image, you search an apod,
Yep.
find an image that you want. Okay. Like M13, there's a nice one there for M13. Just right click it, save it to your desktop, and then use your photo program that should be basic. In Windows, it's just Photos or Paint, and I'm sure Mac has one too. And you just zoom way in, and you're looking around. And look at here. Look at this one right here. See this?
Mm.
Here's another one, obviously.
Wow.
That just jumps out at you.
Oh,
Okay.
Lance knew. I got a few more comments if you want to hear them.
Absolutely.
Please ask Bob back again. This has been great.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And
All
then
right, cool.
Lance says NGC 6207.
That is that this one up here. I think that's this one.
Okay.
Okay. So let me go take this a little further. So I pixel peep, and I'm snooping around. Okay. And if you can do this in all the images, and I'm looking for like little grains of rice, and they'll look like just little grains of rice. And I'm thinking, the first time I saw it, I thought, what the heck is that? That's got to be some type of a flaw. Okay. And then I Googled it, and I Googled the image, and it's actually an identifiable galaxy.
Wow.
So here's the thing. This galaxy right here is IC 4617. And the poor things, can't even name it. They just gave it a catalog number. Right? So here's the thing. 540 million light years from Earth.
Wow.
And so us that understand what a light year is, okay, it's not a calendar event. It's a measure of distance, right?
Right.
There's 6 trillion miles approximately in 1 light year. If you take 6 trillion miles times 540 million, my calculator doesn't have enough zeros.
No.
Right. The other thing is that I take it a little further. Oh, and by the way, I think this is the furthest thing I've ever photographed personally that I've found. I take it just a little further. And so let me jump into one more picture here. Okay.
Lance goes, that little guy is IC 4617.
4617. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. That's exact. 540 million light years away. Okay, so this is just a blown up version of it. Okay, there's a hot pixel. See the blue there, little blue thing there. So I had zoomed in on that. So let me jump to the next image. Okay. Oh, this is the one from apod. So Pam, if you'll share this one.
Yep, it's up. It's shared.
Okay. So see, their image is a lot better resolved. And I'm thinking maybe my focus may have been off a little bit that night or whatever reason. But I mean, look at all these stars. Okay.
Oh, wow.
But here's that image. Here's that little galaxy. So it doesn't matter who takes it. It's all there for us to enjoy and use the way we want to.
Oh, that's stupendous. Oh,
Okay.
my goodness.
So, here's that other one up there in the corner, and that's much better than mine.
Is that
You
the
can,
NGC 6207?
you can see some spiral arms in this, and
Yeah.
even a core.
Yeah. Wow.
It may not be the core; it may be just a star in front of it.
Oh, Steve, APOD, astronomy picture of the day.
Steve, read the book.
Chapter 1.
APOD, right? Astronomy picture of the day.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I thought you wouldn't know. Now you do.
It's an astronomy porn site.
It's exactly what it is. What'd you call it, Pam? You call it eye candy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Astronomy picture of the day. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think if you just did a search for either APOD, APOD, or astronomy picture of the day, you would find it. And I think it's even apod.nasa.gov or something. I don't know. Oh, no, don't be sorry, Steve. I'm the one that didn't explain. I usually do.
Yeah. And besides,
So,
I know you spend a lot of your time looking at a camera, not at the internet.
Right.
So a beginner and somebody that you're targeting in your book, okay,
yeah,
they can go to APOD, download an image, and do this pixel peeping on their own.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea.
Remember I said to you when we were first talking how I used APOD?
Yes.
So they don't have to have a camera. They don't have to have a telescope. They don't have to do anything.
Nope.
They don't have to have an investment. All they have to do is know where to go. Okay. And then they can do this pixel peeping. And look over here. Right there.
Let me get there. All right, go ahead.
There's another one.
And that's a new term to me, pixel peeping. That's definitely
pixel peeping. Yeah, because I'm down at the pixel level of the image.
Yes.
Okay. So there's another one there. And I bet if you scan through here, there's another one. Look, right there.
Wow.
And this stuff just really floats my boat, I'm telling you, because it's just amazing. And the average person can do this. And,
yes.
And could you imagine, you're with your kids or your grandkids and you're on the computer one night and you're just exploring space this way. If you have a program, and I can't do it in this one, I can do it in Paint, but I can't zoom so well in Paint. You can go in here and you can take a pencil, a red pencil, and start circling these things. Okay, circle that one, circle this one, circle this one, circle this one, and then zoom back out and then count them. Okay, geez, we found 30 other worlds, galaxies, and each one has billions of stars in it. It's amazing. It's just mind-blowing.
Yes, it is.
So,
more comments. You ready?
You bet.
I don't know what this means, Steve. I'm still trying to get my own APOP. Okay. Tell me what that means. And Lance says those are both PGC. The galaxies, you mean, Lance?
Must be. Yeah. I think that's the catalog.
Okay, got it. You can get lots of free pictures from NASA and do what you want as their public domain.
Yeah.
Yes, most everything is on APOD. You want to look for a copyright because a lot of these are submitted by individuals.
And these are too. To see this copyright.
Yep.
But
right there.
I'm not selling it. I'm not using it in a book.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, you've taken some beautiful pictures. You could, in fact, submit them to Astronomy Picture of the Day, and they may, in fact, display them like this one you see here.
They could.
It's a crowdsourced type of a platform.
So let me see if the next image is the one I want. So remember, this one's 540 million light years away. Okay.
Woo.
So, okay. This is a timeline
Yep.
a geographic timeline of Earth's history. Okay, down here at the bottom, Earth forms 4.6 billion years ago, and us happy folks are up here. Okay,
Last
500,
second.
540 million years ago is way down here. So that light left there
Wow.
540 million years ago, and so I find myself asking, okay, so what is happening on Earth, even with M33 or triangulum, yeah, M33, 2 million years ago. Well, that's up here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this was the period, and I don't really understand geography and the periods, but I just kind of think this is fascinating because as far as biology, this is what was going on the Earth at that time. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
And it's just amazing. I mean, it's just like when you look up at the night sky, or you see things through your telescope or on your camera, you're looking at a time machine.
Yep.
You know, we all understand that. So
it's amazing. We did. I think I don't know if I missed this. You met day pod. Yep. Good. Lance says this. Oops. Sorry. Come on. Yes. Principal Galaxy Catalog.
It's like the IC catalog or the Messier catalog, or
Great suggestion. Yep.
Perfect.
And Hubble pictures too. Yes.
Yep.
Hubble, and I think James Webb Space Telescope. Yeah,
So
you did share that.
There's all kinds of resources that you can, so let me jump to the next one. I'm not sure what I'm going to see, but let me jump there.
Okay.
Oh,
ooh, I know that one.
Go ahead. This is Witch Head.
Yep.
Okay. This is a reflection nebula. It doesn't put off its own light. So it gets its light from a big, bright blue giant star, which is to the right out of the frame, called Rigel. And Rigel is the lower right-hand foot of Orion. So this is just, as you're looking at Orion, his lower right-hand foot. So this is just off to the right of that. So this is very, very dim. This is 5 hours worth of exposure time.
Wow.
So when I was shooting this, it didn't even show up on my screen. I just knew it was there because I could see these bright stars. So when these bright stars were in that approximate position, I knew I had all of this. And so then when I went into post-processing, you stretch your data, okay, and then you start bringing all this business out. So, and look here, if we pixel peep, look at this little rascal right here. So, I just, I love this stuff, and not necessarily for the quality of my photos, but just all these other little tidbits that I find,
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah. So let me get out of this one. Okay.
Yes.
And let me show you. So the equipment. Let me share this thing. This is my DSO outfit. And so you can see there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's a rabbit hole that's very easy to go down.
Yes.
This is the scope. I've got two scopes, actually. This is my smaller scope. It's a William Optics Z61. This is a guide scope, the guide camera. This is the main imaging camera, which is this. Okay. This is a ZWO 2600. This camera is actually cooled. Yes, I do have a Z61. Thank you, Trevor Jones, because I was watching one of his podcasts on this, or his reviews on this scope, and that's what got me hooked on it. So anyway, this camera is cooled. It cools the sensor so that you can do the longer exposures and not worry about the sensor heating up.
Got it. Interesting.
Okay, so that's this right here. This, of course, is the mount. the battery running the whole thing. And then this little black box right here is a Windows 10 computer that has all the programs on it that has to that I have to run everything. Okay. So, and then what I do is I network into a laptop using Windows RDP. So Jeff, you know what that is.
Yep.
And it works flawless. I'll either go through a little router or I'll just use an Ethernet cord. And so, but there's just a lot going on, and my cable management is terrible. Look, I got cables everywhere, and no matter how hard I try to clean everything up, it just is a mess.
I've seen worse.
Just a recommendation: use loose tie straps to the legs of the tripod.
Oh.
I do that, but what happens is this is pointed north to Polaris, so this is polar aligned right now.
So cool.
Okay, so when this slews and moves,
yeah, you'd have to have enough slack, and then
I gotta have enough slack and all that, and I never get it right. And so I've got all these cables hanging and stuff, and it's okay. So it slews to the first target, and okay, I'm good. And it's tracking. Okay, I'm good. Now it's going to do the meridian flip. And so, it's got to flip from one side of the tripod to the other side of the tripod, and so, there go all the cables, so I don't know. Anyway, so let me show you.
Sure was just here in Australia for star stuff.
Hang on just a second. Let me get out of this. So let me show you this. Okay,
yep.
Pam.
You ready?
Yep.
There we go.
This is the laptop that's running, that's remoted into that little PC on the mount. This is the program called Nina. This is what I use to control everything. So you can see there's a lot going on here. This is actually the image of the Pleiades.
Yep.
You can see it there. So Nina is taking care of all of this stuff. Wow. So it's actually pretty cool because I set it up as the Pleiades as a target, and then I told it to shoot for so long, and then after a certain period, the Witch Head was my second target on the same night. And so when it was done shooting the Pleiades, it went to the Witch Head automatically, centered on the Witch Head, and it's centered on that RA and deck that I had programmed into it, and it's all automated.
Wow.
Fingers crossed though, because there's a lot that can go wrong, but there's a lot going on here. I mean, there's telescope information here. There's weather information here. That's important because it tells me what the dew point's going to be. Okay, and you guys know what problems dew is on our scopes.
Not in Arizona, they don't.
No, you're right. In Arizona, they don't. So then Nina will tell the dew heaters when to turn on.
Okay, that's pretty neat.
Steve asked a question there. No, I do not go to the mount. I can be in bed and it will flip. It will flip on its own, and then it will recalibrate on its own. It will automatically pick up the guiding. I use PhD 2 for guiding. It automatically recalibrates on its own. So that's part of Nina. So this is the guiding graph down here.
You really went deep into this rabbit hole.
Do you know what guiding is? Okay,
tell us more.
So there's another little scope mounted on the main scope, and then there's another camera on the back of that little scope.
Okay.
And it's just looking at a few stars. That's its only job, is to look at a few stars. Well, as the mount tracks, if it's not tracking exactly as it should, and really only the very most expensive mounts don't have tracking problems. The mount I have is not bad, but it still needs to be guided. So what it does is this camera is looking for those stars, and
Mhm.
those stars are projecting on the pixels in that camera. If
Mm,
they drift off because the tracking is off on the
yeah.
mount, it sends a correction. The software sends a correction to the mount, and that's what these little bumps are. Okay, so here it's running along smooth. Everybody's living where they're supposed to be on the correct pixels on the guide camera, and then all of a sudden it's looking and it says, "Uh oh, no, you're not where you're supposed to be." So I'm going to send a correction to the mount, and so the blue is RA corrections, and the red are deck corrections.
Mm.
So
Okay.
this program works really well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple more comments. Steve
Okay.
said.
Uh,
Go ahead.
the ASI Air, I don't think will do an automatic. It should, or maybe I
Mm,
haven't learned how to use it yet. Yeah, it will automatically flip. I have a couple guys in the club that use ASI or ZWO stuff exclusively, and it will flip. Just got to dig into it. I hear Nina was very good. Nina is excellent, and the best part about it is it's free.
ah, well,
Yep.
that's so wonderful that there's a lot of tools that are very easy to access and
Yep.
get to. Yeah.
So the other thing it's doing is one more thing. It's watching the focus. So my scope has an automatic focuser on it, and I actually got that after the M13 photo. So I think maybe my M13 photo was out of focus. But it's watching the focus of the stars. If the stars get too big because they're getting out of focus, Nina will stop imaging. It'll do an automatic focus run, and it will bring the focus back. There's a motor on the focuser on the telescope, and the focuser will bring the focus back. And then when it's the best it can be, then it'll resume imaging.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So let's see. What else have I got? Let me keep
I
going.
do have another one here. I just realized.
I'm
RMS
getting those
value.
good RMS value to try to get. I don't look at numbers, and I don't look at graphs. What I look at is I'll zoom in on this image right here, and if my stars are round, I don't care what the numbers are.
Nice, good rule of thumb.
Okay, because the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
Okay, RMS numbers are great, and a lot of people fuss over them, and they're messing with settings, and they're messing with this, and they're messing with that, and it's like, if your stars are round in your image, you're good. Don't mess with anything. The old saying: if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well,
Yep.
Bob, you're going to miss out on the great dodecahedron stellar discovery.
I'm just a good old boy, and I
But
I'm a
and it
filmy guy.
depends. Do you want to get good pictures or do you want to play with the computer?
Yeah, and because
your
the other
hobby.
thing is, your imaging time is so short, and so far and few between, especially in central Pennsylvania. Now in Arizona, I'm sure it's a lot different. But I don't want to be monkeying around with stuff. If my picture looks good, buddy, I'm on it. Shoot it.
Right on. All right, Cliff. ZWO. I don't know what that is.
It needs some. ZWO is a good product. It needs some fixing.
Okay.
Agree.
The lower the number, the better.
Okay.
Is that the ZWO, Cliff?
The lower the number, the better. Absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah.
The RMS number, the RMS value.
Yeah, and the RMS numbers are. Where are they on here?
Well, in mathematics, I'd think that's
The RMS numbers, I think, are right here on this. Again, I'm looking at the image. Okay.
I can appreciate that.
Let me jump out of this.
All righty.
Okay. And
Yep. You tell me when you're ready.
okay, let's see what's next here. I covered all of that. Let me get into my notes. Oh, okay. So this is all of this stuff, this big deep rabbit hole that you can go down is one way to do this. Manufacturers have recognized and they want more people involved in it. So in order to do that, they've got to make it easier. They got to bring the cost down. So without dropping names here, ZWO came out with a product called C-Star. And go ahead, Pam.
Interesting. Yeah, hold on. Steve has to go. He
Yeah.
says thanks for the great show, and he'll watch the rest later.
Thank you for your comments and your participation.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Great questions. Good night.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, so let's see. Let
Okay.
me add you. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Yes, I recognize this.
Yep, this is the C-Star unit. It's a fantastic unit. The optics in it. This is a triplet lens. There's three lenses that make up this objective.
Okay.
It's got a tracker built into it, a camera built into it, a solar filter built into it, a dew heater built into it, and let me move this. You can get a little tripod for it.
Nice.
I don't have one of these. Oh, and the price on this unit right here is $499.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I thought
This
you were going to say higher.
this thing, $2,000.
Right.
It's crazy. So let me show you. There's a couple guys in the club have one of these, and I'll show you the images it takes. So this is what it does. It'll find the image. It polar lines on its own. It tracks on its own. And then the other thing is it annotates, which means it's identifying all these objects, these galaxies and Markarian's chain, which is a big cluster of galaxies. And look at the exposure time. So it's 15 minutes worth of stacking that it did.
Wow.
So this looks like a cell phone because it is. It comes across your phone or your tablet. You can share this instantly with family or friends or upload it.
Wow.
I'll just move through these. And then you can send these to post-processing. Yep, $500. Yep. You can send these to post-processing and obviously include the improve them. So
oh, wow.
I'll just buzz through these. There's different images, there's the sun. It has its own solar filter.
Is that hydrogen alpha? It kind of looks like it might be.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Of course, with sunspots.
Yeah, it'd be easy enough to look it up.
Yep. There's the crescent moon, a little overexposed, but
beautiful.
There it is. There's the Terminator you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There's an enlargement of the sunspots.
Wow.
This is the Horsehead Nebula in the constellation Orion.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the exposure time, 17 minutes.
Wow.
This thing's really, really dim. But this is what this thing is taking. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a comet, and if you look at the date, 6/11, it was taken. I've got another one I'll show you. There's the moon, of course.
Nice.
Dumbbell Nebula.
Wow.
So here's another one, the comet, and look at the date, 6/27. But now look what it's done. The comet has moved enough that now these other little galaxies are in the field because the comet orbits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing is a fantastic little unit for people to get started in it, and
you think it's a good starter? Well, it's an all-in-one almost, isn't it?
It is an all-in-one. That's exactly what it is. I think it runs off batteries, or maybe there's a power adapter for it.
Wow.
But I mean, for $500 versus $7 or $8 grand in a thing, if you want to get into this type of photography, this thing's very famous, the Whirlpool Galaxy.
Oh, there it goes.
There's a Lagoon Nebula. A little off center, but that's okay. There's another star cluster. This was the eclipse.
Okay.
Yep. And then it also takes terrestrial images. So
So someone's looking at someone else's very expensive
yeah,
observer.
exactly.
Cliff's got a comment here. An ND filter on the C30.
I'm not sure if it has an ND filter or not. I know it has
What's
the
ND
photo
stand
filter.
for? I don't know that one.
Neutral density.
Oh, right, neutral. Okay,
Yeah.
I've heard neutral density, not ND.
Yep.
Awesome.
Let me go into something else here.
All righty.
And if you want to end this, you let me know, but I'm okay.
I want to see you slew the telescope.
Oh, okay. Well, I can do that.
Yeah.
Let me do one thing here first, though. Let me just get into planning, and this is like the math part of it, okay? And I know nobody wants to mess with this, but let me get into this. So there's here, okay. So you want to share this then?
Yeah.
So there's a few apps that I use on my phone that I rely heavily on, and again, I'm dropping names here: PhotoPills, Sky Safari, Astropheric, and Deep Sky ISS detector. And so these all offer different ways to plan and be and make more use of your time in the field.
Mm.
So I'll use PhotoPills to plan an image somewhere, anywhere, because it integrates with Google Earth, and I can plan it from my recliner.
Mm-hmm.
The day, the time, where I need to be, which way I need to point. Okay.
Wow.
The other one is ISS detector. It's fantastic, and I'll show you a couple images. I know the one lady asked for.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep. And then most people don't plan to fail; they fail to plan. So this is ISS detector. Oh, sorry. And so what this shows me at my location is when is the next sighting.
Yeah.
At my location. Okay, so there was one this morning at 3:00. Okay, the next one is July 23rd, and it shows the rise and set time, and then how high it's going to be in the sky. And then Jeff, you spoke about magnitudes earlier in the show. It will be a magnitude of minus 3.6.
Oh, that's bright one.
Oh, wow.
But look at here on July 25th.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
Look how bright these are.
Yeah.
So those are good photo opportunities. So what I'm saying is this is a good planning tool.
Yep.
Okay.
Heavens Above does something like this too.
Yeah.
So this is the radar screen, and actually Tuesday night, I think, Pam, after we did our thing, there was a sighting.
Oh,
and
nice.
I quick grabbed the screenshots. So this was actually from Tuesday night, and so this is what, as it goes across the sky, when it's first visible. This is it right here, right? I mean, as it was that night. This is as high as it goes, is the maximum elevation.
That's very high.
This is when it disappears.
Got it.
Now, the other thing I use, hang on a minute, is Sky Safari.
Yep, heard of that one. Haven't used it.
Sky Safari is like my go-to app for astronomy stuff. And so I searched on that night, July 9th at 10:30. I searched ISS and it showed it. And it'll actually show it moving across the sky. It's really cool. And then if you hit this little I button right here, it'll bring up this information page.
Cool.
Which is a cool learning tool. You know, it's got all the information. Okay. So let me show a couple ISS photos. Hang on just a sec.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I got some more comments. How's that?
Okay, great.
Cliff says stack photos, totally automated and easy to use, super simple and very good. Yeah, I think he's
okay.
Yeah. And he went to the camera shop and got a new ND 10,000 filter the Texas eclipse. We could have a part 2. We'll do something. I don't know, Cliff.
Yeah, they. I got, I think, a 10,000 neutral density for my eclipse pictures too. So let me show you the ISS. There was an interest in that. Okay, go ahead.
Yep, there it is.
This is taken at Cherry Springs.
That's pretty cool.
And this is a 4-minute exposure. So I've got some foreground. This was taken like at 10 o'clock at night, and you can still see some light in the sky back here.
Right.
From the sunset.
That's west. Okay.
This is west, yeah. But this is the space station moving across.
Yeah, you got a good bit of it.
I have one more. This is taken out at the lake of the space station going across. And this is actually looking north. So up here is Polaris. See it?
Yeah.
And so see how everything's rotating around Polaris?
Yes.
You see that?
Yep.
And then here's a
How
little
long was that?
This is probably another 4-minute exposure.
Got it.
Yeah. With like an 11 millimeter lens. So it's really wide. So I figured out, okay, I knew where it was going to start. I knew where it was going to end. I kind of guessed at how long I needed to do it and capture it. And then I adjusted my aperture and ISO. So my exposure was decent.
Right.
Okay.
Nice.
Let me show you. Okay, so let me show you this. Photo pills. I told you that I could plan a shot from my recliner. Go ahead.
Yep, got it. That's beautiful.
So I planned this. This is looking down the runway at Cherry Springs. And I knew where I needed to be at what time and which way to point. And Photo Pills told me that. And so this is like a 7-image stitch. So take a picture, move it, take a picture, move it, take a picture, move it, and then stitch it together.
Yeah. What's the vertical streak?
That's a shooting star.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So this is like almost 180 degree photo because the moon was rising in the east. The Milky Way was rising up out of the south. So that's 90 degrees. And then you've got about 45 degrees on each side of it. So that's another 90 degrees. So that's almost 180 degree pano of the sky up there. And this photo has all kinds of problems, but it's still just a great photo. I mean, look at all this
beautiful
garbage. It's just not. This was in my early days, but I just can't get away from this photo.
Right.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
You even knew about that organizing app at that point. You said early on. This is early on. That's like
wow. It was when I first got Photo Pills and was learning how to, yeah. So this was in the early days.
Wow.
So let me see. Oh,
that concept of organizing is very interesting to me. I didn't realize you'd want to do that, and it sounds like you really do want to kind of plot out what you're gonna.
You do because I mean every dog has his day, of course, but you increase your chances of being successful if you know where you need to be and when, And I'll show you that right here. So astroperic is like the clear sky chart.
Yeah.
And let me get into this. Hang on just a second.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, go ahead. So astroperic is like the clear sky chart, only it's got a lot more to it. So I wanted to shoot the eclipse. My club had a bus trip planned to Erie. The eclipse was on Monday. And so on Sunday, I was looking at astroperic and the weather in Erie, and it was not looking that good.
Yeah.
As it was on most of the East Coast, right?
Yep.
So Astropheric showed the path of totality from Mexico up through Texas and out through the Northeast.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I picked a spot in the totality that the weather looked good. Okay. And it ended up being, and it was a reasonable drive for me because I was going by myself.
Right.
So it ended up being in Upper Sandusky, Ohio.
Oh yeah.
We had an Ohio visitor. I don't know if she's still on or not, but that's where I was.
And Sandusky is very famous for a park up there, Cedar Point.
Yep. And so this is what I got. And Astropheric, I can blame Astropheric for these photos because
that's wonderful.
It really helped me capture the eclipse, which for me is probably a once in a lifetime event. So let me, and everybody's seen eclipse photos, but let me show you a couple here. I'm going to scroll on to the next one. So this is, of course, I think the diamond ring, they call it. Everybody's seen these. And of course, some of the prominence is starting. Okay.
And this is still the April one.
The one in April, on April 8th, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so let me jump to the next one here. Oh, not that one. This one. So this is when it was moving off the sun. Okay.
Right.
And these huge prominences developed around the bottom.
Yeah. And people said they could see them like naked eye.
Yeah, you could. And I shot this, of course, with my D850, and the sensor on it is so detailed that I could crop in this tight and show this detail in these little wisps and these prominences. This was taken with a telephoto Sigma lens on a star tracker. And I didn't need the star tracker necessarily for the exposure time, but just to keep up with the sun as it was moving. I didn't want to be monkeying with it, you know. Yep. It worked out perfect. So let me jump back here. So somebody asked in the club meeting, how tall is this prominence? And so nobody really knew. There were some guesses. So one of the guys in the club's a really into it astronomer. And the next day he emails, he says, this prominence is 4 Earths high.
Oh my God.
So this is what I did. I took 4 Earths and I stacked them up here just for some fun. And that's how tall this prominence is.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah. So this was an amazing experience. I'm so glad I went, and I can, you know, Astropheric was a big part of it. Yeah, I got that big prominence, and you could see it with your eyes. Yeah, you could.
Yeah, Cliff was in Texas that day.
Okay. So one more here. So I used this little tripod right here to be way down to the ground to get this environmental shot. So this is at totality. I was in a truck stop. I couldn't find a place to stay. The campgrounds were closed.
Yeah.
I have a cap on the back of my truck, and I have a little bed back there. It's quite comfortable, but I stayed in this Love's truck stop. And so this was during totality. Of course, the street lights came on. Everybody witnessed this, you know. It was just a fantastic. Up here is Jupiter, actually.
Ah.
So that's how I plan a lot of my things, is with phone apps. So let me jump out of this and jump into one more thing here. Okay. This is going to be the longest one you've ever had.
Yes, it is.
And all I can do is apologize, but you asked for it. So
you're the one that's up really late, not me.
So
not yet.
Let me find this. Okay, so here we are. So just share this one.
Yep, it's up.
So I love the skywatches because when I take my scope back here, this is a 6-inch Newtonian.
Oh, let me show that too.
Okay.
Yep, you're in now.
Newtonian on a little star tracker that's tied to Sky Safari. Okay, and I don't know if it's still connected here or not. Remember earlier I had some problems.
Yeah, it sounds like it times out.
It does. That's not what I want. It's connected. No, it's not slowing.
So there's an app on the phone.
Yeah, it uses an app on the phone and it connects through Wi-Fi. There it goes.
Wow.
So I pick an object in the phone and it automatically will slew to it. So I'll tell you a little story. I was at a skywatch, a club skywatch, and this little girl was standing there with I assume it was her grandmother. And we were looking at the moon here. And I said, come on over. You want to look at the moon? And sure. So she comes over, she looks, we're looking, and she's like 6 or 7. And of course, she loses interest pretty quick, like kids that age do. And so all of a sudden, she looks up in the sky and she points and she says, what's that? And she's pointing at Aldebaran. And I said, well, I'm not sure, but I think it's Aldebaran. I said, let's go look at it. So in Sky Safari, I found Aldebaran. Okay. I said, here it is right here. Now just take your finger and touch it, And she's like, almost like, you don't have to tell me how to work a cell phone. I know how to work a cell phone. And so she touches it and it selects it. And then a go to button comes up. And I said, now hit go to. And she hits go to and the scope took off just like it did right then. And her eyes got as big as saucers. And it was so cool for me because for that moment, she became the astronomer.
Yep.
She found what she wanted to see in the sky.
Yep.
Through technology, we located it. She made the scope go, sense and purposes,
Yes.
And then we looked at it. And again, a star through a telescope just looks like a point of light.
Right.
So
but she went and found it.
It lasted a minute and then, she was bored and moved on to something else,
Yeah.
But it's those kind of experiences that keep me coming back. Because
and who knows what the little girl will go on to do.
Who knows what it'll lead to. And like in this photo here, I mean, when I show people, especially when the moon is in this phase, and I show people the craters that are lit like this, and this goes back to photo school, and it's how to read the light and why the light does what it does. And because this is basically edge lit, it really brings out all the details in these craters, right? So this is the time to view the moon. Really not when it's full, but
or in the daytime. Yeah.
Yep. I take some during the day too. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's Cliff's club in Australia, Pomona Astronomy Club.
Yeah. That's really all I have, unfortunately.
That's all he has, he says.
I just encourage everybody to satisfy that urge everybody has to be curious and, look for those answers. Look for something new and then share that with others, especially the younger generation.
Oh, they're going to live and work and play involved with space. Absolutely. No question. Yep. Okay, Lance.
Okay. Thank you, Lance.
I'm sure that Bob has other things to share with us.
We'll tailor it not quite so broad next time, maybe. Or maybe Pam, can they contact you and make suggestions?
Absolutely. We always are open to all kinds of suggestions.
Yeah. Yep. So, if the viewers tonight want to write in and contact and kind of what you want me to come back for.
Very good. Very good. We do have a couple more little segments and we will watch for your comments, folks. So if you have something else to say, we will be here for a few more minutes. But yeah, let's just go ahead with
some stellar events this week, July 12th through July 19th. July 12th, the moon is on the equator. It's in descending mode, and it's at apogee at 251,260 miles from Earth. July 13th, first quarter moon, and Spica is 0.9 degrees south of the moon.
That'd be a good picture.
Yeah. July 15th, Mars and Uranus are in conjunction, of which, unless you've got a scope or something, you'll see Mars.
Yeah.
July 17th, Antares is 0.2 degrees south of the moon. I don't know if that's resolvable. But July 19th, moon runs low. Need to charge. July 19th is our Friday night show. And thanks to Don, we found an interesting person to profile.
Yeah.
Want to know who? Stay tuned. Find us Fridays at 9 p.m. Pacific time on the Everyday Spacer Facebook page and the Everyday Spacer YouTube channel.
What inspires you the most this coming week? Let's get Cliff real quick. And I'm going to skip that part. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. Oh, and Don.
I think this is a question for Bob.
Yeah.
On
What's
your
your setup?
setup and what and how it works. Oh, meaning maybe a topic for a different show. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And which setup? The which photography? Which the Newtonian? Which would be a little more specific on which setup?
Yeah, get in touch, Cliff. Let us know.
Yeah.
Don also says, thanks, Bob. Your astrophotos
Thank you.
are fantastic. Come back soon. Good morning, all. Yeah. Good morning.
Thank you.
So if you or someone you know has done something interesting involving space exploration, science, or astronomy, we love to share our life. Are you a fan of rocket scientists? Join us again next Friday, July 19th, to hear about Yvonne Brill. This is the person that Dawn told me about. And I said, perfect timing. I'm going to do a profile next week, and she sounds amazing. She is responsible for inventing the electrothermal hydrazine thruster. It's a fuel-efficient rocket engine that keeps today's satellites in orbit. She holds a patent for this invention, and I can't wait to delve into her some more. Oh, Cliff says telescope and camera, etc.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right.
Maybe I'll set my big scope up in here. I don't know. We'll think of something.
Yeah. And you don't have to come back right away. A couple weeks would be good because I got a show lined up for next week. Yeah, well, you need time to figure out what you're going to say.
Yeah, well, and time to recoup.
Yes, it's a little late there. So quick shout out, Cliff and Dawn and Lance, and I know Janie was here. Steve. Oh, we're missing Scott. He wasn't here tonight.
Yeah. And a couple of
new people. Yes, let's find them real quick. Jake was here. Jake Demo, and I know D. We saw D. Was that it? We might have gotten everybody. Oh, I'm sad, Scott. Oh, Daniel was here. Sad, Scott. Janie Becker. Scott missed a really good episode. I think we got everybody.
Yep.
Is that it? Did we? Oh, did we say Lance? Lance Shaw was here.
Yep.
There's D.
Yep.
Folks, have a wonderful, wonderful week.
I want to thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yes, for us too. All right, folks, have a great week.
Yep.
And come back next time to hear about Yvonne Brill.
Thanks, everyone.
Good. Yep. Good night.